Okay, we're going live now. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And we have a really great cast of characters. That's what I like to call it. Okay, we're going live now. So I am now echoing myself. Everyone for joining.
You got to turn off.
Anyway, yeah. So why don't you introduce who's here? And I'll introduce.
Okay, so tonight we have, Alan will introduce Elisabeth and Nadi because you know them, but I want to introduce Sophie here, Sophie Zavala Zinat from Mexico, in New York, a 19-year-old
intuitive
savant, visionary, and just pure-hearted, lovely soul who's going to provide us with lots of interesting insights because we're adults and we forget things.
And over here.
What happens to the live stream when some are frozen? If Alan is frozen, does the live stream still function?
I think it does, only because I saw a blip. It didn't happen this time, but the last time it froze, I saw that I was the host. So maybe one of you are the host now. I don't know.
What?
You were frozen, Alan.
Back. Alan, can you hear us? You're muted. Alan, you're muted.
Thank you. I hate being muted. We got bumped off. We got bumped off for a second. And I'll just introduce Nadi is I would say a metaphysical explorer, wizardess, shaman, awakened being, and Elisabeth Sithouris is a great scientist, someone who's investigated the UFO phenomena, and as well as this intersection between mind, consciousness, and spirit. And so we're gonna start off with you, Elisabeth, because Michael, who we're no longer seeing here,
He's joining again.
But
he had a question.
Okay,
let's
introduce him.
We'll get Michael on the call, and then he can ask the question that will start off the evening.
Well, I've got about 6 things to answer already here.
Okay. Well, before you answer, and then Marla, of course, is incredible intuitive, Nadi. So, and then Sophie here also.
Actually, do you want to introduce? Introducing. Marla.
No, Henrietta introduced Marla, or we did. All right. So if you have 6 answers, why don't you just go for the answer? Why don't you restate the question and
Excuse me, sir.
And then you could.
Before we restate the question.
Yeah.
I don't think we've had formal introductions.
Yeah. No, we had formal.
No. I was headed off at the pass when I was talking about Michael Jaliman.
Oh, you want to introduce him now?
Yeah.
That was the idea. You had suggested I do so.
Well, we got cut off.
And we didn't finish.
Okay, but he's not here.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Oh, there he is. Okay. There's Michael. Okay.
So let's slow down, champ.
Okay.
Slow down,
I have a worldwide audience looking for me.
Oh, in that case.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm afraid to speak now.
No. Just
Okay. Michael Jaliman, student activist in 1968-69, world famous figure actually, as the head of the student body at University of Wisconsin-Madison as a freshman in 1968 or 69, Michael?
Yeah. Unmute, Michael.
Unmute. You need to unmute.
It was actually
Michael.
1970, and it was 2 things propelled me to global media. One was the bombing of the Army Mathematics Research Center that put 10 people on the FBI, 4 people on the FBI most wanted list, blew up a major building, and it was the first person that the movement killed.
TMI. Go ahead.
No, I think.
And then the previous to it was, calling for Nixon's impeachment with a bunch of other student body presidents and calling for a national student strike, which then led to Kent State and then the explosion after Kent State. And then on my campus, again, massive demonstrations fighting the National Guard with tear gas, et cetera.
And fast forward, other details of your checkered and beautiful
Okay.
career.
Well, I'll just
Don't worry.
give it relative to the question I was going to ask
Yeah,
of
why don't
Elisabeth.
you go ask Elisabeth that question? We'll jump into the whole conversation.
Okay, so the question is,
Yes.
Elisabeth, for myself, subsequently, having worked with Buckminster Fuller and worked with Jonas Salk, closely with both of them, and Jonas wrote, I know, respected you as well, wrote this book, Survival of the Wisest. To me, the thinking of that group of people represents more wisdom and what's the evolutionary requirement than what's right now out there in the world as progressive thinking that's supposed to address climate change and a better society. And I wondered what you thought about that and how you perceive the question of the wisdom of yourself and your group with now what's leading the progressive consciousness, planetary consciousness.
Well, thank you, Michael, for the question. And I just want to say about where you are that I just learned that Bobby Kennedy Jr., who originally was just an environmental lawyer, actually litigated 500 polluters of the Hudson River, and that it is now the cleanest river in the Northern Hemisphere.
Wow.
And that's so amazing because I'm a Hudson Valley girl. I grew up.
Oh, wow.
I was born in a hospital in Cairo, New York, which is between Athens and Catskill, kind of.
Wow.
And the oldest living tree fossil in the world has been discovered where we used to go swimming in the summer in the quarries. And I have that background. Maybe next time I'll use it.
And it's a magical place, the Hudson Valley, too.
Yes, in many ways.
Can I clarify that, Elisabeth? Were you born at Columbia Memorial Hospital?
No, I think did it have a different name maybe back
I don't know. I worked there for 10 years and I was just gonna
Wow.
kind of marvel at that synchronicity if that's the case. But in Hudson, the hospital?
Well, there was only one there when I was born. So whatever was there in 1936, I'm 85.
Well,
Wow.
thank you for
I'm
clarifying.
a fossil myself, practically. Anyway, so many things that come up in terms of what you asked and the Hudson Valley. And I wanted to introduce my dear beloved Kala behind me. That's her name. And I think it's wonderful that Nadi has a plant, and somebody else who got bumped off also had a plant. So we had all these plants behind us when we started out. So Day of the Triffids, eh? Plants rule. And talk about wisdom. To me, trees are about the wisest beings there are on the planet. And it's interesting that they have all 5 of our human senses. Plus, we have already identified 15 more senses that humans don't have. So bow to the trees and try to ignore the rescue vehicle going by. I am in Honolulu. We now admit gobs of tourists again, and they're constantly getting into trouble. So I hear the rescue vehicles in my concrete canyon world here. I do have a view of both mountains and ocean from right where Kala is, a few feet from me.
Wow. Well, that's a long way from the Hudson Valley to Hawaii.
Yeah, well, I've been around the world a few times too, and lived in Greece and in Peru and in Spain and Canada. But I made a couple of notes here for things. Last night, Alan, I was reading your book and I went to sleep wondering how many hybrids are there among us, bringing in all these new waves of wisdom and knowingness of who we really are and things like that. And it was a very hopeful thing to go to sleep on.
Oh, good. Well, Nadi's a hybrid and I think so.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of us here.
Terrific. And I want to get to hearing her story, but I'm going to weave around to Michael's question about wisdom. But let's see, I also wanted to offer you all the gift of the proceedings of that very first disclosure conference in 1995, because I now have a digital copy of it and can send it to anybody who sends me their email, and and says they
It's
want it.
the first UFO proceedings, really the one that sparked it all.
1995.
You
in
would love
Washington.
it, Nadi. Yes.
And it was called When Cosmic Cultures Meet. It was
Right.
not about establishing that they're here. It was talking about how we're supposed to be interacting with them in the best possible way. And
Right.
there was John Mack was at it, and J.J. Hurtak was there, and my little protege from Peru, Puma, was there as a 14-year-old speaker.
Oh,
And lots of people that you will recognize. Danny Sheehan, I think, was there, and anyway, you'll see if you get the proceedings. And okay, and then I was going back to Carol Rosin and the old interviews, as Michael is talking about what was wisdom, you know, sometime a few decades ago, when Bucky Fuller was still around, and Joe Campbell, and Carol Rosin did a couple of interviews. One of them was with Linda Moulton Howe, Alan. And I don't know if you have seen that, but it was the ones I was interested in were her talking to Werner von Braun, who was the Nazi designer of the V-2 rocket, who was brought over to America under Operation Paperclip and became a US hero for working on our bomb and all of that stuff. And what he said to her on his deathbed was just fascinating, because it was about who the US government would declare enemies over time, from Russia, the Cold War, and then moving on to terrorism. And then it was going to be satellites. And the last one was aliens.
Von Braun predicted that, you're saying.
Werner von Braun actually spoke of his fear. He said he gave Carol the mandate of working on peace in space, which she's devoted her life to. And Scott Jones, who organized that 1995 UFO conference, he gave his mantle to Carol Rosin also. That was Commander Scott Jones of the Navy, who was very interested in all of the ET stuff and knew a lot. And he traveled to both Russia and China to talk to their UFO specialists. And so this is back in those days, Michael, that you're talking about, when there was a lot of wisdom around. And I'm not saying there isn't as much wisdom, maybe more around now. It's harder to find it now because journalism has been so killed off, in the sense of a true journalist being an investigator, trying to give people the real news, you know, the facts of what's happening in the world. And now the world taken over by fake news, it's more difficult to identify where the wisdom lies. And so I look to the young people, and I look to all the people who are working on multi-dimensionality, and the people who are working on building clean green technologies, like my favorite hydrogen dirigible. Go to the website h2clipper.com to see it. I have to stay alive long enough to fly in one of those. And yesterday I spent half a day doing research on the Zeppelins in Germany, and watching a 1938 documentary of exactly how they were built and tracking that whole thing. Do you know that those hydrogen dirigibles flew for almost 10 years? Every couple days they were flying from Germany to New York and to Brazil, with a stateroom and classy restaurant with fancy furniture in it, and up to 90 passengers in the beautiful cabins. And these things, you know, never had a problem until the Hindenburg went down. And it went down, giving hydrogen a bad name, when what actually happened was that it had been coated in what was later identified as rocket fuel. And as a single lightning strike would have, you know, just burned that. And you can see from the original pictures, the photos of it burning in the air, that it's not a hydrogen fire. The hydrogen would have burned with a pale blue, invisible in black and white film, no smoke, you know, stuff. Anyway, I can talk forever about the
So,
hydrogen economy.
where are we going now with all this new technology? Yeah, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so well, I think we need to build this new one, this new version of a hydrogen dirigible. I call them sky canoes. They have needle-nosed endpoints, and they were designed with sacred geometry involved and stuff. And the first one hasn't yet been built, but we're getting close. The inventor of it is Ronaldo Budico, who's head of the World Business Academy and my #1 unofficial brother. So anyway, I put together all these things because that research about dirigibles had led me to Wernher von Braun. Apparently, the company that built the dirigibles had written a letter in 1938 to the paint company that had supplied that coating, which was cotton with a kind of waterproofing doping and a little mercury and a little aluminum in it, and stuff like that. And they didn't know it was that. But they flew for 10 years that way, carrying all these people around successfully. And so I finally, it took me like 4 hours of research to suddenly go, duh, the paint company was IG Farben. And I never heard it referred to just as a paint company.
What does that mean, IG?
That's a major German
IG
conglomerate.
Farben was an amazing, it was the biggest chemical industry in Germany. And the heirs today of it are the Bayer Monsantos. They, among other things, produced the gas that was used in the chambers in the Holocaust, and and now the chemicals that Monsanto sprays on your food are derived from those. Talk about where did the wisdom go? How have we been so taken over by such unwise leaders? And that's my big question is. For us interested in the UFO world, I think we still need to be cautious about false flag operations, knowing that way back then, von Braun was already predicting that the last in the series of enemies of the state would be the aliens. And so we have to wonder if their acknowledgements now, are grooming us to be so interested that we'll believe whatever they say about them when they start their big confession.
So you're saying we have to be careful of government acknowledgements because they're going to tell us a little bit of truth and this lay on this whole other thing, this lie, this narrative. Nadi, what do you think about that? And then I'll ask Marla, what do you think as Nadi?
Yes, I hope my coverage works here. Elizabeth, it's so lovely to hear you. It's lovely to meet you. You just are fabulous. I feel honored. Well, we had that one call where we attempted to talk about the UAP report, and it was just such a nothing burger. And I had the perspective that it was not benign, that it was really nefarious and really no good in terms of setting the stage for UFOs as a threat. It was this really base, subtle, not so subtle implication. So I absolutely agree. I think that the stage is being set, and I think that's part of why this conversation and ET Roundtable conversations are so important to get the word out that that's just, it's so benevolent, our galactic community. So that's
I think it is benevolent. Do you think so, Marla? Or do we have some good people out there helping us, or do you think the government's going to twist from your kind of psychic intuitive sense? Are they going to twist the narrative to put everyone back in fear because they do such a good job of putting us in fear, or trying to anyway? Unmute, Marla. Unmute. Yes.
Sorry, Alan. I'd like to address the first part of that. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten this message that the universe, the energy that the universe runs on is love. And the first time I heard that many years ago, I was stunned by it. And I'm still stunned by it today. I don't have the comprehension to understand what that means, but having heard it so many times and seeing it in some visions. So I think at the worst, the universe is running around being itself And at the best, I think that, and that's not bad, right? And then I think at the best, I think there are those out there who care about us, who wish us well, etc. I don't know how to address, honestly, the question about the government. I don't really.
Can I address the government question?
Right?
Can I address the government question?
Yeah, sure.
So just from my own heart, okay, I think, 'cause I've met Joe Biden, when he was a senator, and I think he's a good human being. I'm not saying I agree with everything, disagree. I'm not talking on the political level. I'm just talking about on the human level, okay? I spent an hour channeling energy into John Kerry. I was running for the House of Representatives, US Congress from the Hudson Valley. He was running for president. We kind of connected. He shook hands, and then I don't have gay energy. I don't think he does either, but literally at this event, we stood holding hands for like an hour. He was sensitive enough that I was basically pouring love and well-being and wisdom into him. And we were like that. I'm not saying I agree this. I'm not talking on the political level. I think John Kerry's a good human being. And again, I don't want to make it conspiratorial, but I met James Clapper, who was the director of national intelligence under Obama. And, I met him and talked to him at the Harvard Club. I mean, it's one of the privileges of having gone to Harvard. And, he's not a bad person, and I've met other people from the CIA whose energy is dark, involved with coups, but Clapper is like a good person. I don't think Biden, for instance, is up to suppressing things and, doing this and that. I think he's a good-hearted person, just like I think Barack Obama, again, who I met when he was a state senator, is a good-hearted kind of person. If we were in a room with him, his energy would vibe with us. I'm not saying he'd agree, disagree, but they're good-hearted people. They're not evil government. And now,
I trust that. I do trust that, that you say that, but not he doesn't. But what about you? So come in.
I'm not saying there aren't bad people in the CIA or in the things also. I knew James McGovern's kids when I was student body president, and McGovern, who was presidential candidate, was afraid the CIA would assassinate him if he got elected.
George McGovern.
George McGovern thought that. That's what he told his daughter. He was concerned. So I'm not saying there isn't dark energies. I'm just saying it's not some monolithic dark government in my experience. Maybe I'm naive.
No, what we're saying, Elizabeth?
Let me just say that I didn't mean to imply the whole government, because I thought all of us are, knowledgeable enough about these things to know that even presidents didn't get informed about what was going on in the UFO research world.
That's true. What do you think? So Sophie's 19-year-old intuitive, and what do you think the energy of the world runs on?
I think that runs on love. Love is the purest energy in the universe.
And so how can we bring more of that to the planet?
I think respecting and learning, hearing each other, it's the key for us to understand each other and see that we all fear and we all love and we all have love inside us if you'd let us.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, because when we start to demonize people, we make them less than human. If they're less than human, then we could, attack them and do whatever, because they're not human, because we put this like idea projection on people. So I think that's the line we have to not walk in, this political division that these people are less than human, and so everyone, if you believe Marshall Rosenberg, has the same needs and wants. They just have different strategies for achieving those needs. But we all have the same feelings and needs. Yes, Marla.
Thank you. I did a reading for a woman yesterday, and I know her. And so I know that she is always thinking, well, first of all, let me just back up. I think that one important aspect of this we'd all agree about is self-acceptance and self-love. It's such like an old theme, but it's so important. And one of the things I think is to realize who we are in all of this. and not to even, sometimes not even to go beyond that, but to just accept who we are. But I'm going to give you an example of what I mean. So I was looking at this woman's soul purpose, life purpose, and I saw that she was a seeker. Now, this is a tremendous title. The trouble with her not, I wish I could be more clear about this. She knew that she was always seeking for spiritual information. This she understood. The thing that she thought and believed incorrectly is that there were people out there with her that had the answers, that knew the whole story, or that knew more than she did. And so I pointed out to her that being a seeker on its own is highly valuable. That is a job worth doing. She doesn't have to find the only person in the world with all the information. Now, my point about that is that when I told her this, she felt such relief because she already knew that she was a seeker, but she wasn't accepting it fully in herself for the value that it has.
That's good. No, I think, would you have any advice for a 19-year-old intuitive about pursuing her natural gifts, Marla?
Let's see, Sophie. Well, Sophie is one of those people who is so gifted that, Sophie, all you really have to do is be yourself. That's all. And I feel like there are, and I wouldn't say this, I try to be very ethical and careful, but I feel like there are magical paths for you to walk that are already laid out for you. And I personally think that most of us have a lot of free choice about what we choose to do and not choose to do. You have choice, but I think that you have just these beautiful paths to walk in your life. And I feel like they're already there. All you have to do for us in the world, Sophie, is get up in the morning and breathe and be yourself.
Thank you.
You are one of the extraordinary ones.
Yes. And you had a magical day today, right?
I had a magical day today.
What was magical about it?
The
Planetary?
Experience of knowing what's out there with the people that I love. That was my favorite part.
Sweet. That is so sweet. Thank you. Wow. I think if we were all that pure and innocent, the world would definitely be in a lot better shape. But
I mean, that's what I'm talking about too, that deep self-acceptance of the of the core of our being, because it's true, we all fear the same things, and we protect ourselves against the fear and against the potential dangers. And this is one thing I admire about Nadi, is her strength and peace combined. That is a great combo, Nadi.
Wow, thank you.
If we all have that, the world would be an easier place.
Right, great. And I appreciate Elisabeth and her wisdom and her openness, and you haven't stopped, Elisabeth. Nothing stopping. You're going for it. You keep pursuing the answers, right? I mean,
yeah, because there's always more questions and more answers, more things to explore. And as one of the Greek philosophers said, I don't know if it was Socrates or who, the more you know, the less you know, kind of, because so many more doors open to explore in. And there's no end to the doors that will open for your exploration. But I do want to make a comment about the universe running on love, Marla.
yes.
I'm totally with that. And I remember years ago reading somebody saying there are only two forces in the world, in the universe, and that is love and fear. And fear is nothing more than, the fear is the loss of love. The feeling that happens when you're sensing the loss of love is what brings in the fear. And so I think that fear is one of the things to really look out for, because we're bombarded with fear stories now 24/7, read off, teleprompters. It doesn't matter which station you turn on, they're going to give you the same horror story to keep you afraid. And that's, I think, the greatest damage being done during this COVID time is the maintenance and promotion of fear. And nobody talks about boosting your immune system with good food and stuff like that. It's only about only vaccines are the only thing we're allowed to talk about. And they're the only thing that can save you from this terrible thing that's going to make you have to have more and more of them. That's not a good story to live by right now.
No, it's not. No, Tony, you have something to share?
I want to know more about. Okay, after Tony, I want to hear more of Nadi's story as a hybrid.
Oh, yes. Okay. Tony, question.
Well, first of all, yes, there's a lot of PR and propaganda that focuses on fear because fear sells various media stuff like newspapers or whatever. But I think it's a little, forgive me, but I think it's a little exaggeration to say nobody talks. Actually, I'm hearing a lot from a lot of sources about how to boost your immune system. It may not be the primary narrative, but we're hearing some stuff about it.
You're not hearing that on mainstream television. They're telling you to do this.
I'm talking mainstream news channels. Yeah.
I guess I'm not so up on mainstream news channels to know, but I'd be surprised if 100% of it was just fear mongering, honestly. That's number one. In fact,
90%.
Part of the problem with mainstream news, however that's defined, let's say the New York Times for one, is that the extremists on the left and the extremists on the right all hate it because it doesn't fearmonger enough. That the New York Times actually does say some relatively gentle Biden-ish kind of things. Okay, so that's one thing. The other more important thing is, I think you're right in a sense, Elisabeth, that fear is the lack of love, but it's also the response a lot of people have when there's too much love in the room, which is to say love and intimacy 101 is that love is a slippery slope and every soul is afraid of it. Because what happens when you fall in love? What happens is you lose a sense of yourself and a sense of your own identity, and you don't know which end is up. I'm not saying.
I just think what love is not love. It's chemical. Falling in love is not
the unconditional cosmic love you're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay,
yes. Sure, please.
I think that every emotion comes from love because love is the deepest emotion in all the system.
I like that.
I really think that love has different stages, and all those different stages are the different emotions that we have.
Sure, like fear, like I'm afraid of you because you're too dang loving to me, and I want to go run and hide.
You don't have to tell us your own personal journey if you want to.
Yes, I'd like to actually.
Okay.
Does everyone have time?
No.
The worldwide audience have time for my life story?
Aren't you a therapist yourself? You must have people working with you, right? Anyway,
Excuse me, sir. No, one last thing.
Yes.
Not personal.
Yes, okay.
I know you're laughing with me, not
Of course we are. Yeah.
No, you. I'm not talking about we. Not the royal we.
Okay,
but the one last thing is when the one last thing is this. Michael's getting a kick out of this. He knows that this is sometimes how I roll.
Yeah.
With him. But by the way, so that one of the great lines in all of movie history is when the Jack Nicholson character, first of all, says, "You've messed with the wrong Marine." But then he also says, "You want to know the truth? You can't handle the truth. The truth of the matter is," I'm going to say, as a seasoned psychiatrist, in my oh so humble Harvard-educated opinion, that it's not only truth that we can't handle, it's love and it's peace that we can't handle, because it really disorients us. It triggers us because we are so hungry for it. We are so hungry for true peace, and we are so hungry for true love. that it freaks us, excuse my French, the fuck out, because suddenly the beast in me, who's been hungry for this for maybe 5 centuries, gets a little taste and doesn't know what to do with it.
Okay, but listen to what Sophie said here, that love is at the root of all of it. Love, pure love. We can psychoanalyze you later, Tony.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. It's a team sport, by the way.
It is, I know, it's a but no, I think this purity comes, right? It's just what you're saying, right?
Yes, I think that there's no true love or true peace because we all come from it. We all are not 100%, and there's nothing that it will be 100%.
This is all very deep, and I agree with you.
No, but it is.
Seriously.
It is. It's not even an emotion. Love is how I understand. Is what we are. All this other stuff is
I agree.
I think that love is the universe.
Yes.
The universe.
By the way, Stevie
comes
Wonder did
from
put it best. Love's in need of love today.
All right. What we
Don't be wrong. Don't be long. Send
Okay.
yours in right away.
I think that the source that makes us all humans
Yeah.
is
What?
love.
The
The
source
source
that
that
makes
makes us all humans.
Amen, holy sister.
is
Thank
love.
you.
Thank
Wow.
you.
And I think that we all fear it, but it's part of it.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
That is so good.
Yeah, I
That
can
pure-
retire now.
that is so that purity, I think, really is what so much of us have forgotten. Like so much of us, we've all forgotten that. But anyway, yeah, Marla, hi.
Hi, so I have a question for Sophie and for everyone.
Yeah.
So if the universe, the source of energy that we're all running on because we're part of it is love, then what can we as humans, what is the next step that we can take to get ourselves in the flow of that? I would love for each one of you to answer that question. Not that I'm the moderator, but.
Well, one place would be to create circles where people feel safe and can express that love, like a circle like that we have right now here among us, and then being able to expand that out. And, just somehow the other corollary of it is almost something, that Marianne Williamson talked about, this quote that was, Nelson Mandela quoting Marianne Williamson, that that it's not the darkness that we're afraid of, but we're afraid of how much light we have. So that light, which is that, concomitant to love, that's part of what we need to bring there. And to bring things down to the political level, what I think on the political social action level that's needed is, and that's lost, is that sense of love. And my question becomes, which I asked of Elisabeth, I'm a radical, fight leading demonstrations. And then I would go off to India. And I also was, to me, coming to the conclusion that what political action needed to come from a place of love. Otherwise, you have the Russian Revolution, you have all of these other misuses. And when I see the people out there who are the leadership of the quote progressive that are going to save the planet, they've lost that message, and even my generation, the people who supported the Vietnam War, we didn't demonize them. We tried to engage with them and win them over. And there seems to be an absence of that on the part of, the Ocasio-Cortez or whoever else are the leaders of the, what's going to save climate change and the planet. And it's wonderful that she's put climate change, on the agenda in the way she has. She has some Shakti. But to go back to your question, I think we need to create safe places for love. I'm a management consultant in big companies, and sometimes, like Tony would say, I'm coming in a loving place towards someone, and they, that scares them. They wonder, what's my agenda? How am I trying to manipulate them? The world is not attuned for that energy.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you.
Alan, while you stepped away, I asked everybody if they could contribute to what's the next step that we humans could take to run on that source of fuel.
Well, I think it goes back to what I was going to ask Elisabeth actually too, because 1995 was that first hearing on UFOs. And I just wrote a book about, here it is 25 years later. Has anything changed? Actually, part of what John Mack's talk was in that proceedings is also what is said in my book. But, is love less present, or thank you, or I mean, is it less? I think it's somehow more present. It's more, we've had more dialogue about that, but is it any more functional? I think our next step is to, you have the climate change person out of Sweden, even though she was a little autistic or whatever, she stood up because she loved the earth. And, but is anything changed in 25, 40, 50? I mean, yes, it's changed since World War II when there were, totalitarians, but has it changed enough? The next step is to really ensuring somehow, I think love is too fluffy for people to grasp, but the fact that we're connected to a cosmos that is here for our benefit, we are not freaks of nature like the Darwinian, Newtonian, Descartes sort of mindset, but there's purpose to existence. And that purpose is sort of what Sophie was saying. So we have to make that a reality without it being sort of fluffy and new age and woo-woo.
What we could say is that it's fuel.
Yeah.
We could call it fuel, or we could call it the flow.
What were you going to say, Elizabeth?
A fluffy.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
I'm waiting for Marla to finish.
Oh, Marla, did you finish?
Well, the most multidimensional being friend I have said to me long ago that, she had chased after what is the real point of being a human in a body on Earth. She thought, because she got into yoga and things, that the point of it was to get enlightened, right? But she tried that with various masters. And then one of her gurus was a woman, actually said to her, you're not going to get enlightened in this life. Forget it. Right? Anyway, she said what she finally came to was that our human task is to ground cosmic love all the way down to our toes.
Love it.
Down to the ground. Now, when you think about that, a lot of our love is either intellectual definitions of it and what kind and picking it apart and stuff, or we're just purely heart-based. But if you connect the love of the mind to the love of the heart, then you've made a big step. A lot of scientists in my world run around like heads dragging sacks of potatoes. It's like they're not even embodied below that. So you have to get fully embodied and then bring it down to through all your chakras to the ground. And then when you can stand on that ground in love, you'll know how to behave and it'll be automatic. And the other aspect of it is that we made community such a bad word during the whole Cold War. We couldn't talk about community because it sounded like communism. And we don't talk enough about the amount of community, loving community we practice every day. We live in these city hives of millions of people, and we stop at red lights and we don't bang into each other, but we stop and chat with each other, and we pay at the supermarket and we talk to the teller, and we constantly cooperating all day long. Yeah. So we act on a feeling of our, not otherness, but togetherness. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the task of grounding cosmic love down through human love into our toes. Right.
That's a great way of putting it. Tony, you had something to say?
Yeah, remind of my friend Maurice Friedman, who was Buber's main translator and interpreter. And he spoke a lot about the community of communities. In fact, I think he had a book called The Community of Otherness. But in any case, he and Buber wrote really foundational works about the connection of community and the between us all. And I'm also reminded more recently of Steven Pinker's awesome sister named Susan Pinker. It's quite a family. Susan Pinker, who's written a book called The Village Effect. which along with among others, David Brooks's book on humans as social animals. Brooks has written lately at least 2 books about humans, about human community. And Susan Pinker has added nicely to that. Not that I've read it, but it seems like from afar an excellent book that drives that point further home, called The Village Effect.
Right. I think that's better. I mean, we're in a little better shape. We're not all afraid of being called communists anymore. So I think we're a little bit more evolved, but yeah. But
one other quick thing.
Yeah, sure.
You can take it the yogic direction for whatever set of reasons, which is fine and dandy and even perhaps preferable for many people. There are certain people who are not going to, for whatever reasons, buy into the chakric system explicitly per se, but I think it might suffice simply to be reminded that the rational mind is a very good servant, but a terrible master.
Right. Thank you.
You don't need chakras to talk about head, heart, gut, legs, toes, right?
Meets emotional intelligence, where head meets heart, that's where the action is.
But then keep going.
Yeah.
To the
And the gut.
And to the cosmos.
And
too.
to the skies.
Exactly.
That's where it's all coming from. That's what we're trying to ground.
Amen. Amen.
Third
But I still want to hear Nadi.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, me
Wait,
too.
Sophie just had one last comment
Sophie.
here, and then we'll get to Nadi. What were you saying?
Sorry.
No, say it.
I think that it all comes from the third eye that we all have that connects us to all the wholeness that we are surrounded by.
That is great.
That's
Yeah.
the pineal gland.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
That's a one Descartes said that's where mind and body connect.
Oh, okay, Nadi, tell us your story.
Well, we might get to that, but I have so much to say about what everybody is saying. It's so wonderful. And, you know, as we sit and listen, we just like get all these responses to the juicy bits that are coming up. So I'm going to try to remember everything. But I basically want to go back to Marla, your question about, you know, love. What is the action? How do we do that? And then I would tie in Sophie's statement about the third eye, as well as a lot of things that Elisabeth was saying, in that I believe that the more we can tap into our multidimensionality, the more we can understand how much more we are, we're going to be able to access that sense of unity consciousness and that inherent understanding of our interconnectedness. And that's really like, you know, if you say what's primacy here, it is to me starting to understand the all that we are. And that can happen through so many different ways, through meditation, through yoga, through psychedelics, through light language. Alan, we had Kimora Jones. Oh my God, I'm doing a call on her work tonight specifically. She's an incredible light language artist, and her work, along with many other channels, light language transmissions, working with these, advanced technologies can help. We're talking about DNA activation. Now is the time. We are encoded for our multidimensionality to be activated. And so when you say, okay, how do we do this? I believe, studying basically like the mystery schools, the ancient traditions of all of these esoteric aspects of our huge abilities to transcend time and space. And then that's where, what's the purpose of being human? I don't know. I'm a little pissed off about it right now. But, to really transcend, to understand the intelligence of, many of the advanced civilizations. Like, we can do it. We have it in us. So that's my passion and my push. That's what I do in this world. And the other thing in terms of practical application is I love to talk to people at the grocery store. I love to just connect and just have a conversation and, balance out this opposite of kind of muzzling ourselves in our expression and our affect where we don't get to connect to each other. Just making that extra effort, and that's the heart connection. And then that builds that foundation of heart, body, third eye activation, and just what everybody is saying. I'm so in agreement with it. it is typically hard for me to be in my body. I am very frustrated at being incarnate. and you know, I'll wrap up with that. But Elisabeth, I've been, ever since the hybrid conference that Alan facilitated, what was that, like 3 weeks ago? It was 2 days of the most incredible speakers talking about the bridge of our galactic community and the hybrid program, and how we are different consciousness and different civilizations. And that call was so activating for me, and I am really learning about my participation in the hybrid program, and it's fascinating. I don't know that I could go enough into it, or that it's really relevant to the conversation. I want to make sure we stay on the ET UFO. I'm not really sure what we're talking about right now, other than love, and that's really uplifting, because I've been pretty grumpy these days. So I'm really, you know, that's my summary of what I think we should do to uplift everything is, you know, practice kindness every day to each other, and then access our multidimensionality so we can really tap unity consciousness and transcend all of this duality. There's my take. Oh gosh. Did I freeze, or did Alan freeze?
I think Alan froze.
Alan froze. Okay, great. Yeah.
Thank you. How wonderful what you both said. Nadia, I have a question for you, if nobody minds, and if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I've been hearing this about you since I met you, which was last month that we've been doing these calls, right? And I've been wondering how you manage all of the layers that you live on at once.
I don't know, Marla.
It's a lot to do. It's a lot.
Yeah, I do the best I can, and I really appreciate you seeing that and reflecting it back. And let me give it a shot. I think focusing on our multidimensionality helps me integrate all of the parts of me that I am in touch with, and then all those that I'm not in touch with. And it's validating of who I know myself to be and who I know everyone to be. Like, the more I can connect with those other parts of me, the more I see people as their bigness and not limited to this, you know, tiny human experience. I think I could do, I think part of my pursuit is to continue integrating all those aspects of myself, but really finding expression for them and normalizing them and validating them with other people. I think that would be my best answer. It's why I do the calls and the groups that I do. You know, I have this history. Elisabeth, this is why I almost freaked out when you said that you were born in the hospital in Hudson, New York, because I worked as a clinician, as a therapist on the inpatient psychiatric unit in that hospital for 10 years. So I have this group orientation, and I just want people to get together and understand that we're not crazy. We've been told that we're crazy for our passions about other worlds and ETs and UFOs and channeling and all of the paranormal and all of the supranatural. We're not crazy, we're extraordinary. And so the more I integrate that and promote that with everybody else, the more I anchor that and feel more solid and clearer in my purpose of service to humanity. Right? Okay, there's the answer. That's the best I can do, and I feel like that's my purpose and my passion and my commitment to being here on this planet at this time, which I'm really having a hard time with lately. Everybody, you know, I was feeling like really grumpy. Michael's talking about the president, and you all saw me. I was like, nah, you know, like it's just really tense and tight. And so to have a conversation about love and really shift that, I mean, that's what we've got to be doing all the time. And it feels wonderful to be here and have that focus, and Sophie with all the reminders, and Marla with the question. So I hope that answers your question.
Beautiful, Nadi. And, you know, you are so full of love and passion. It's your life's work. So don't let the personality get in the way of that, you know, because the personality always wants more stuff. But beyond the personality, I think what Sophie's saying, that's the essence of this is it. So I don't know where do ETs fit into this at all, Elisabeth, the love aspect, or are they needing love in their own way? Or unmute.
Can I have to jump in.
Unmute. Wait, Elisabeth, unmute yourself. Wait, Elisabeth. Oh, what was that, Nadi?
I just have to let you know I have to leave in 10 minutes, so I'll stay as long as I can, but it's been wonderful, and thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Nadi. It's so delicious to get to know you. Where are you?
I am back and forth between Portland, Oregon, and Sedona, Arizona, trying to figure out where I'm going to land.
Between the red rocks and the rain, right?
Yeah.
Where are you in Portland now, Nadi?
Yeah, I'm in Portland, kind of packing up my things to get back to Sedona, because that's the place where that makes sense to me there.
I spent a year in Portland, and I loved it. Loved it. Got to go up Mount Hood and all those good things. But anyway, about the
ETs in love.
About the ETs in love, it's so obvious that they've come here in love. If they were hostile, they'd have taken us out long ago. We know that. I mean, it's just stupid to think that. I used to think that, all civilizations around the cosmos are going to stumble on things like nuclear energy and stuff, and then they either blow themselves up or get with it and love each other and, build decent societies and cruise around trying to help others. And, they have to be very dodgy about being around Earth, as we know. So I like to say they slide up the keyboard into the non-physical energy waves so we can't see them to shoot them down, because when they come into view, they are vulnerable to our weapons. And so they have to be careful. I love that they used to land a lot up in the high Andes, where nobody was anything but friendly, and really appreciated how helpful they were. They called them the doctors. I think I've said this before, because they wore white and they could fix cars and people equally well. And so, I can't wait for a world in which we can interact here on Earth openly, welcome them as loving guests and helpers and wisdom keepers and all those things. Like, why do we stay stuck in this stupid, hostilities when we can have planet is so beautiful? Why do we want to wreck it? It's like dumb. So I sometimes have to really laugh about that. We call ourselves the pinnacle of evolution and the wise humans and the top of the line and stuff like So I think that they have a lot to teach us about love, and they don't need any lessons in it from us.
Yeah, no, I agree. Marla, do you get that when you go out there in your realms, that there's something beyond that human consciousness? And because,
Should I be honest or not honest?
You should be not. Well, what do you think? Yeah, it's up to you. I think honesty is always good. Yes. Yeah, tell us.
Well, I have seen some nasty stuff out there.
Yeah.
Just to be truthful. I've seen a few things that I wish I could have forgotten. And I'm talking about interdimensional or connecting with other energies. I'm not talking about things on Earth. So
right. Well, it's not all love and light, obviously. Yeah, go ahead. Yes. Yeah.
But as we've been talking about, I do keep getting far more often. Do I get messages about, like I'd say like 90 to 95% that I get the positive, loving communications or existence over, maybe it's even higher. Maybe it's like 98%. Now that 2%, I'm just going to say is nasty, but I think it's really, really in the minority. And I don't know what runs that. I mean, that's a topic for a whole evening.
Let's ask Nadi. What's your, before you go, Nadi?
Nadi. Yes. But
what's my experience of what runs the love? Sorry.
No, what runs the other stuff, the negative energy.
Love.
Man, really, that one? What runs the negative? I mean, didn't we say that in the beginning, that it's the desire to get back to love, like that it's that disconnect? Or I don't know if I'm answering that right.
We're talking about the aliens, the ETs.
Yeah.
Are there some ETs who are here maybe for not so good purposes?
You know, that is a horrible, dark conversation. And I tend to stay away from those. And unfortunately, I know those rabbit holes. I know the explanations of certain civilizations that are feeding off the energies, and I can't tolerate.
I think it's a necessary conversation.
There's a lot of folks that have survived my lab, that have survived secret space programs. There's a ton of evidence. There's some really nefarious stuff going on. I lost it. That's great. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, but you know, it's what the Tao Te Ching says. You can know the dark, but stick to the light. It's something to be aware of, not something to indulge in, but you need to be aware of. What's that, Elisabeth?
I'm not sure that Nadi really understood. What Marla was saying is when she goes out into other dimensions, she's seeing about 90 to 95% positive, but some really negative stuff as well in that ET world.
Yeah.
So, and I should say not ET world, because you know the ET concept is so new to me. So I think of it as all things out there. I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. I think
the question to Nadi was what?
Is worth going deeper into, because I mean, I think one of the things Nadi was referring to was that there are programs in which humans have been taken on false UFO trips kind of thing, and they come back with very negative experiences because that's behavior control, that they have been programmed to come back telling negative experiences, but they never were on an actual ET world UFO.
Right.
So that's
the My Lab stuff. Right. It's called.
Yes. Military lab, yeah. But that's, you know, it cycles back to the beginning of the conversation is like, what is this program that is designed to keep humanity in fear of those, you know, our galactic neighbors? And so it cycles back. Sorry if I was off on the answer direction, but I do believe in dark energies nefarious. We live in a duality, so we're going to be aware of that. I also believe that it's a reflection of our consciousness, right? Like that's going to be a huge part of it, what we see, what we focus on. But I also, Alan, absolutely, you have to be aware of it. I feel that you have to be able to have a conversation about a rabbit hole and dark energies and, you know, hostile civilization takeovers, because unless you know that, your choice to focus on the positive is not as strong. And I have really found that I have had to like spend time focusing solely on managing my vibration to a high level, couldn't watch the news, couldn't do much of anything. And I've gotten stronger, and I can take in some of the media, I can take in the information, and I can sit there and say, hey, we could talk about dark agendas, but it's so much more valuable and nourishing and important and useful to focus on the light. I know I'm saying things that we all know. I'm just part of the choir.
It's important.
It's okay. Maybe some people don't know. Well, ask Sophie that question. What do you think?
Yeah, ask Sophie everything.
The dark and light, and you know
what Nadi was saying.
Yeah.
I think that every light has a darkness. And without the darkness, we don't appreciate the light. It does not exist. And then, yes, be very afraid of it and have their distance, but just know without it, we don't have the light. We cannot appreciate the light. That's right.
That's very wise. Did that just come up to you?
Yes.
That just came to you. That is excellent.
That's right.
It was all just love. What's that, Elisabeth? Yes.
I was going to say, one of my native names is white condor, Ruya Kuntur in the Andes. And I like the image of the condor, not so much because it's the highest flying bird in the world, but because it's a recycler. It can get into the garbage and clean it up. I also love the image of the seagull that dives into the garbage and comes up clean. Somebody has to, recycle that negative energy into the light. It's one of the ways, I think, Sophie, of turning on the light is to not be afraid of the dark and to be willing to recycle what you find there and bring it up in the light. Turn the darkness into light.
So that 2% that's out there is what is needed to keep the rest in balance. Does that make sense, Marla?
I disagree with that.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Nadi.
There. Thank you so much.
Hi, Nadi.
Lovely to meet you all.
Yes, talk to you soon. What we saying there, Tony?
I think one has to be very careful about, that's popularized by the Star Wars movies, the dark, there has to be a balance in the force between the dark side and the light side. We're getting into deep theological territory, and I think we really need to step with care, frankly. And frankly,
I agree.
It's beyond my pay grade theologically, and I dare say it's beyond most people's pay grade theologically.
But it doesn't mean we don't have to stop asking the question. It doesn't.
So
we might not have the
asking
answer.
The question is one thing, but when you say something like it's one thing to propose as somewhat of a question, do we need the 2% to keep the light in balance?
Yeah, but
here I'm going to say,
the
light brings out the darkness. The wizards bring out the dragon. So, for instance, Judas was probably a pretty good guy until he got very close to Jesus,
I guess.
I'm gonna stand up and say theologically, I've thought long and hard about it.
Okay.
And Jesus brought out the worst in Judas, and the light often brings out the worst darkness in even the highest souls. Mm-hmm. So the Sufis have a great saying, the light, it magnifies the darkness. Mm-hmm. The light shines light on the corners of the room where it is fucking dark. Mm-hmm. And when I say fucking dark, I'm not talking about some theoretical discussion. I'm talking about people. I'm talking about the attack on the Capitol, for instance. I think the attack on the Capitol could be understood, among other things, where 5 people died, at least of.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I don't have to get too political. Then it polarizes.
I'm not
people.
Getting political here. I'm saying America today. America today, putting politics quite fully aside.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah,
it is a clash between light and dark, and especially the people who are in some ways closest to Jesus, to put it one way, are going to be behaving very oddly if Jesus actually takes a few steps forward to them.
Okay, I'm not sure exactly where Jesus fits in, but maybe Michael, go ahead.
I think we didn't hear something that Sophie said, which is talking about, because it doesn't fit into the New Age consciousness. So I don't think we heard what she said, but I'm aware of it because, from my own teachers I've chosen to stay away from the darkness. So there's the kind of darkness in our spirit, in our unconscious that gets brought up with the light. But just like I think Marla has spoken to and Sophie did, that there is a kind of pure darkness. That's not just the unconscious twisted energies in us, but a pure, powerful darkness that what I heard Sophie say was we need to recognize legitimately fear in the sense of knowing to stay away and knowing that it's, dangerous. That there are forces like that. I think when Marla's talking about the 2% or 5% that she tunes into, she's not talking about the negativity in some human being's consciousness, but a pure evil, a pure darkness.
Is it
angelic
evil?
Hosts of, domains of darkness that have power. But
Sophie, is it evil or is it ignorance? I mean, yes, you can call that.
You can say ignorance, but we're not, from what I'm hearing from Sophie, what I've heard from others, what I've chosen to stay away from as much as I can in my own life is not just the ignorance of human beings, but a pure ignorance, like that Tony might say, that inspires the, Hitler, who was a spiritual left-hand practitioner, a dark practitioner,
he wanted the best, but he didn't. He wanted the best. He thought that was the best idea to purify the world.
Yeah,
but in a way, it's pure-hearted, but it's ignorance, because if you don't listen to your surroundings, you will not learn how to behave and how to embrace people. I don't know.
No, beautiful. Yeah, I get what she's saying. His intention were purification. He just went about in a very kind of tragic.
Wait a sec. Come on, we're talking about Hitler.
No, I'm saying
who murdered 10 million people. Who murdered 10 million people.
I know.
Don't talk about pure intention.
I'm saying.
Don't talk about pure intention.
No, I'm not saying that.
You were starting to say that.
I'm saying that someone has a vision that is distorted, and that's what they believe. And it's tragic.
We're talking about levels of pure evil that you and I know not of, brother.
I'm not saying I know about it.
I'm telling you right now, this topic requires much more serious and solemn discussion than this kind of new age bullshit.
It's not new age.
It's new age bullshit as far as I'm concerned.
So you're saying it's impossible to understand evil. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying approach it as the sacred topic it is. And not with little theories that don't go very far.
It's not theories. We're always trying to understand.
You hear the thunder? Watch out.
What's that, Michael?
Hey,
Tony, what have you seen in terms of darkness with the people that you work with?
Elizabeth was saying something.
Let's go to Elizabeth.
And then we'll go to you. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
We're talking now about individuals in a very large community and who is used to do what by the powers that be. Mussolini he coined the word fascism, and he defined it as an alliance between big business and government to rewrite the rules, the laws of the land in their favor. Now, fascism is a system, and it can do a lot of evil because it's an elitist system, right? It's a 1%, 99% system. We can get rid of everybody we don't need in this world system. And that is the kind of thing that somebody would have been appointed other than Hitler. Somebody was needed to run that show, somebody who could be the public persona for it. So what I think Sophie is saying, Hitler got indoctrinated, he believed it, he bought it, he sold it, and the damage got done. So that is a matter of record, of historical record. There's no point in arguing whether it happened or not. The question is, if we look for one individual in those situations where massive evil is done, we're missing the big picture that brought that individual to power, and that is more appropriate.
Maybe. I would say you had me at massive evil. If we're going to talk about massive evil, then let's not play tiddlywinks about it, which is to say, I hear you and I hear Alan, what's his name? This guy.
Yeah.
And
what's his name?
I want to say, this has been a subject of grave concern for humanity for centuries, and even for the last 30, 50, 100 years vis-a-vis Hitler and Mussolini and the rest of them. I'm just recommending that we don't scratch the surface and think that we've understood it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
The rational mind, and I'm not saying you did. I'm not accusing you of that. I'm not accusing you of that at all.
No, she was just speaking from her purity and seeing purity. But wait, Michael, what did you want to say about all this?
Well, what I wanted to say was that where I was going with this is Marla's initial perception about this pure evil, that in my kind of understanding, there are these dark hierarchies which are powerful, which then bring in, and then if you like, are the dark overlord energies over a Hitler that bring in that kind,
Right.
you know, maybe they delude him into thinking that he's for the good. Most people, even who are bad, have some justifications and think they're good, but that there's some very dark energy in the universe, powerful dark energy, not just the unconscious, you know, negativity that then inspires a Hitler, that then drives people to suicide, you know, in certain cases to suicide, but that there is that energy incarnate in a way that we on the light worker side try to stay away from. And I personally, when I've been told by teachers, hey, do you want to work with this? You know, one of my teachers who works with it, I choose to stay away from it and have nothing to do with it. I have enough to deal with, you know, a less multi-dimensional reality.
I wasn't criticizing you at all.
I know.
I have one more thought about this, Alan. It
Yes,
just
please.
dawned on me. When I used to go out of body, I ran into astral plane entities. And that is part of the keyboard beyond humans. When you get up into mind, soul, consciousness, you know, there are planes like the astral plane where there seem to be a lot of souls who are up to no good and who hang around in bars and prisons and army camps and all kinds of places trying to glom onto people. There is such a thing as possession, right? So that's another aspect of where you can encounter evil, because they scared the shit out of me, you know, and I stopped going out of body. I did everything in my power to stop going out, because either I could go up through my head into the light, or I could get sucked out through my feet by these guys playing on the astral plane.
No goodness. So two things in response to Elizabeth.
Issue. It's a complex
First of all,
issue. We started with Marla talking about the larger universe, and it's clear that there are forces of dark and light and contests and things going on in the universe at large. And we kind of gravitated down to Earth into how good or bad do humans behave. And there's not a lot of question in my mind about how many humans have behaved really badly.
But I
like,
have a question for the doctor.
Yeah, Dr. Tony here.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you want to, go ahead.
yeah.
So how much do you think, of course, now I'm sorry that I brought the whole thing up, but
No, don't be sorry. I think Tony had to like express some stuff he was holding back.
no, I didn't mean in that way, but because
Hey, Tony.
like Michael, I think that was very wise what you said. I stay to the side of it. I don't, whatever that is, I want no involvement in it. I agree. Okay, but Dr. Tony.
Yes.
Okay, this is a big question and maybe unanswerable. Let's just say that, okay, maybe there's evil, but isn't there also human evil that's really just simply driven by mental illness or by I don't know, certainly like maybe chemical imbalances, but also parts of the personality that have not been dealt with, or trauma or whatever. I mean, how do we start to distinguish in all seriousness between trauma-driven things or genetic-driven things versus what we're talking about, which is a sort of amorphous.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good, great question. One of the questions of the ages, honestly, with no easy, simple answer. It's a discussion for not only for another day, but for a whole decade or two. But I believe Elisabeth hit the nail on the head when she referred to simple selfishness. The worst schizophrenic or post-traumatic patient is in a lot better shape if he or she, in a given hour, opts for something closer to selflessness and consideration not only for self, but for other, and opts away from selfishness. Because of nihilism and hopelessness, which is part of, quote, mental illness, people succumb to selfish decisions that head them towards the pit of hell and end up making what could be a budding mental illness a full-fledged mental illness. In other words, where karma is added because of selfish decisions to an inclination towards an inclination towards mental illness, shall we say. It makes it quiet, but makes it much, much worse. That's the short answer. There's a longer discussion that ensues from that, but selfishness and selflessness are two key factors, and those are decisions that are harder to make when you're post-traumatic, when you are in pain or in anxiety. But we always have, theologically anyway, I believe, theologically and philosophically, we always have some power of free will. It's a lot harder to locate when we are under it, quote unquote, under some kind of mental health problem, but we can still make better versus worse decisions in terms of whether we're just looking out for number one or whether we're actually looking out for the larger whole.
Well, thank you. I just want to say something also is that
I think
You're
that was
frozen now, Alan. You're frozen. I don't know if you're aware.
demonstrates we have that in our human beingness. We have this purity, we have this love. And so, yeah, all that stuff exists outside of love, but there's something that we can draw from. And I think even Tony's reaction, in a sense, came from love and indignation and all that, because he really does care a lot, and we all just have different strategies for showing that.
Amen.
And so, what were you saying, Mike? Anyway, what did you?
It certainly is. You did catch that.
Oh, no, it's okay. Anyway, no, Michael, were you going to say something there to?
No, I think that it's the complexity of the universe with different energies, just like Elisabeth was talking about, channeling the higher energy down here and then down here, and then, down into the heart through the different parts, grounding into the body. Elisabeth seeing darkness on the astral plane, Tony working with, disturbed people on the physical plane, and then they're just being something, which Marla, it's not amorphous, but you've seen in a very concrete way, some concretization of evil. And I think what Sophie said is true. It wasn't a justification of Hitler in anything. He thought he's purifying the Aryan race by killing all the impure people, and he's delusional. Okay. It's not, she wasn't in any way justifying it, but just like his own beliefs.
She is very pure herself to pull in.
She's a very subtle being, I can see. But it's just, that's the way we self-justify. That seems to be part of the human kind of consciousness, that even if we're like a serial killer, we think we're getting rid of bad people, or I don't know what the serial killers believe. But, it's the world, you have to do this to survive. But everyone's justifying, right?
Well, I think what makes humans different is that we actually want to do good. A pure human being in touch with our wants to help other people. We want to, if I've done something wrong, I want to make amends for it, just because I want to feel.
Unless you're a sociopath, by the way.
No,
you're a sociopath.
I'm saying pure human being. I'm not talking about sociopaths. I'm talking about people who want to change and grow and evolve and love more, which is what most human, which is the 98% that we're seeing, Marla, and the 2% that are, like Michael maybe said, they're possessed or controlled by these dark forces. So, most humans want to be loved and express love.
Yes.
You're very Pollyannic.
Sorry.
Thank
you.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No,
this is universal for us, right?
Yes,
and maybe universal in the big way. Yeah, we yearn for this. And I don't think we ever stop yearning. And Elisabeth, I love what you said. I said this on a previous panel, but I felt like I spent a lot of time in the astral, or whatever we want to call it, the there, and then not as much in the world. And I asked a couple years ago for integration, and it happened, and pretty quickly. And what I feel like, Elisabeth, the reason I'm bringing this up is that integration feels so good, doesn't it? And I think that when we integrate that love, energy, whatever we want to call it, and do exactly what you said, ground it down, our lives change.
Yeah.
And I think life becomes very much easier.
If we let ourselves love.
If we let ourselves love.
It will be the
And if we bring it, yes.
Mhm.
So Elisabeth, I loved that you gave us that 3-step program. It is. It's so easy, the 3 steps.
Well,
To embodiment, to integration, to, right?
yeah, when you ground the love, you're not nearly as likely to be pushed over by whatever bad stuff comes along.
What does that mean, grounding the love? Can you describe that?
Alan, you have to get fully embodied.
Okay.
You have to get that love, not just down to your heart like you have, but really down to your toes where your feet are in the mud.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
You know, there's a group of people who plant trees who get people to stand in a hole, and they pack them in, sort of plant them and make them stand there for a while. And it's a very good grounding exercise, apparently. So maybe you could try that.
I am going to try. I like being embodied, grounded. I do love that feeling, because that is love coming through the physicalities of being, you know.
Yes. And, you know, one of the things I have taught quite a few women, that men kind of try to go after women's emotions. They can bully them into crying or something like that, falling apart in an argument. And I tell women, stand with your feet shoulder length width apart, you know, breathe deeply, and now get your voice down into your belly and speak from there the next time you're talking to a guy. Because if he can get you to go up, you're very unbalanced.
Right.
There are various exercises you can use to ground, but think love as you're doing it. Plant that love down below your toes, so that you're walking on it anyway, because the earth loves you as much as the cosmos loves you.
True.
Anyway, I think
We're in the earth bodies.
For better or worse, military duty of 2 to 4 years.
Well, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate
Thank you.
everything you add. Anything you want to say to Elisabeth?
Thank you for everything. It's a pleasure to hear you talk.
Thank you,
Very
Sophie,
true.
for being you.
Thank you.
And I agree with Marla, just keep being you. Just walk that path, but keep your feet grounded, because it's going to rock a little underneath you. And you'll be fine.
I appreciate. She is. She just be solid in all that beliefs, of all that knowing. Thank you, Elisabeth, I always appreciate your insights and your.
I do have to go.
Okay. Yes. Let me know what you think when you finish the book too. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm almost done. Yes.
Okay.
I savor it, and I go back
Oh.
to other chapters and write.
Oh, nice. John Mack is great. Isn't he great in there?
Oh yeah, he was and is great.
Yes. Yeah. Well, let me write a little blurb if you want when you finish it. You could just like a sentence if you feel like
Sure.
it.
Oh, okay, will
Thank
do.
you. Okay, Tony wants to say goodbye.
Bye. Take
Bye.
care.
I want to say bye too.
Bye, Elisabeth.
Thanks,
Bye.
Elisabeth. Thanks. You know, Elisabeth is quite a well-known scientist in the world. She really is. Do you know any?
Michael is very aware of that.
Do you know about you? What's
Well, I
her
know
back?
of her from like the time when, I worked with Buckminster Fuller. She was one of the elders, Jean Houston,
Right.
Bucky Fuller, Salk, for a generation earlier than us, of the kind of higher expanded consciousness, concern about the planet as a living system,
Right.
that kind of wisdom, which again, my political thing is, how do we bring that wisdom now to the people fighting for climate change? Whether it's to the Greta Thunbergs or to the AOCs and people like that. So that as a practical thing in terms of animating, the quote progressive force. The other point, to just reinforce something that Tony was saying, which I am sympathetic to, is I think that for even the people during the Capitol siege, not to go political, that they were influenced by like an energy of negativity, even though in their hearts and in their minds they thought that they're fighting to protect America and protect our system and from the bad and the evil pedophiles and whatever, but they actually believe this kind of stuff, and that they are influenced again by some negative forces on the planet coming through them.
I agree with you there.
And I would emphasize the setup for being influenced by negative forces was and is their degree of yearning. They are yearning as deeply and as fervently as any of us, if not more so.
So would you say that's pure?
No.
Why not? To them it is.
To them it is.
Well, that's all I'm saying. It's not to us.
But that's not enough. It's not enough to say it's pure. You're misleading the whole
I'm
world when you
I'm
say
just
it.
saying, on their intent, they think it's pure.
So what?
So who's the ultimate understander? Who's the ultimate judge? I'm not saying it's right. Don't misunderstand.
Well, talk to me and say how it's wrong then.
Well, I
want to hear how it's wrong.
It's not my values. I don't go in there and destroy.
And I'm going to say, as a psychiatrist, fervent yearning is a possible opening to great things, and it's a possible opening to, quote, purity of heart that leads to evil. I
understand. So who's to tell those people?
I'm telling you right now, it leads to evil.
I know, but who's to tell those people they're evil? They don't think they're evil.
So that's the great question.
Well,
it's maybe not the answer. Maybe that's not the question. Maybe we befriend our frenemies and enemies.
No, they're delusional, but you can't tell a delusional person they're delusional.
You're telling me that. I've worked 50 years, 40 years with delusional people.
All right, how do you tell them?
Tony does have wisdom about them. Tony does have wisdom about how you tell someone
one thing you don't do is you don't emphasize how pure. You emphasize with every look. I'll tell you what. I was sitting with somebody this morning just like this, who could have ended up at the Capitol,
right?
Because he's that kind of guy,
right?
And every time I complimented him,
yes,
for how pure-hearted he was, which I did, I didn't end there. I also said, but you really need to think this stuff through more.
I agree.
Well, you don't add that.
All right, that's why you need psychiatrists.
That's why you need me on this to be setting you straight and yelling at you.
I
Marla
need to be yelled at. That's
yes, you
evil.
do.
No, I don't. That's evil.
It's not evil. It's a little angry.
Marla.
It's a little angry.
I think you have to stop being angry.
You're better than that.
You have to stop being angry.
You're better than that.
Thank you, but stop being angry.
Why not? Why should I stop being
angry? Angry is not the energy of love.
Actually, anger in limited ways is.
Doesn't work for me.
You know what?
It doesn't
Jesus
work.
said, I have come not to bring peace, but a sword.
Okay, but it doesn't work for me. But anyway, Marla, what were you saying? Marla, you raised your hand.
I have no idea. I completely forgot now.
Right. Michael, help me. You know this guy. I just met him.
So he's loving towards you, even though it's like anger. I mean, I know him well. So And so Tony, just skillful means it works better with him to say, "Hey, brother."
Because you're in a kind of fog. In my opinion,
I don't think you have to get angry and upset. I don't think you understand where I'm coming from.
Where are you coming from?
I'm not saying any of that's good.
But you're not immediately adding that.
I'm only trying to make a point here to you.
What's the
point? The point is people have an intent that they believe. And how are you going to shake them out of that?
Tell me
I'm asking
something
you,
I don't
how do you
know.
shake them
How
out
are
of
you going to
it?
shake them out?
You're
Oh, I
the
know what I was going to
psychiatrist.
say.
What,
What?
Marla?
Okay, Marla,
I remembered.
tell
Okay,
us, Marla.
listen. But that is what this is all about, is helping us to learn how to think
Yes.
and how to
yes.
think about things that are very challenging
Yes.
and how to think about things
Amen.
beyond ourselves. I love this. Alan, good
Well,
job.
Well, good. But the thing, what I'm saying, and
That's
I think
good maternal energy.
I think what
He
Sophie,
needs maternal and
I
paternal
think what
energy.
Sophie is saying here is that there is the sense of beingness, right? The sense of love that we are. And when people get angry and yell and upset, that's not evil, but it's not love as I see. You may say, oh, I'm trying to love that person, but I don't see it that way because I've been traumatized by people like you. If you really want to know.
I mean, physically or?
No, emotion, like that kind of force, which I'm
Try
saying
for
it
you
for
to get
your own
over that,
good.
brother. It's
You know,
time
let's
for you to
invade
get
the
over it.
Capitol because it's for their own good. It's that same energy. It is. If you don't see that, I know a
don't,
psychiatrist that you.
because that's physically attacking a place with
I
guns.
know a
That's-
psychiatrist.
No,
Sticks and
it's the
stones.
same
Sticks and
energy.
stones
It's the
can
same-
break my bones.
All right, it's the same. I want to hear what Sophie has to say about that.
Me
kind of
too.
thing. 'Cause
Sophie, teach us everything, Sophie. Because
I
you
think
already
that
know.
he comes
Sophie.
from a pure path, but that
the
he
greatest
wants to be
intentions.
a great intention. But I don't think that it's 100% right or 100% wrong. I just think that it's a pure emotion that comes from a pure heart.
I
And
understand his, Tony, I understand your upsetness when someone says that's a good thing. I was not saying that it was a good thing. Henrietta,
Well,
jump-
you weren't adding,
I
you weren't adding,
no, you-
look, it's pure heart.
No,
Look,
no, you
what
didn't
I'm
let me
really
finish.
upset about.
but let Henrietta jump in here. Okay, what are you upset about? Tell us.
What I'm upset about is a man of your purity.
Well, you didn't let me
And
finish what I was
intel-
saying, but
Go ahead, no, finish it then.
The
Finish
saying
it.
was, these people had an intention that they believed in, okay?
Yes,
That's what, you wanted me to go further, and I said their potential was wrong. Is that what you wanted? to
no, no.
do? So go ahead, tell me what were you gonna say there?
What I'm saying is, you, with your degree of intelligence and your degree of pure-heartedness, are putting out half-truths. In
I'm
my oh so humble Harvard-educated
No, no,
opinion,
I-
you are amateur theologian
No,
and
no, I
philosopher here,
wasn't.
and not going to the
You-
levels you could go
You
to.
are misunderstanding it.
How so?
Okay.
You said they're pure-hearted according to them. What else are you going to say?
I'm saying they need help. They need help because there's a delusional aspect to that.
You didn't immediately add it.
Well, it
And
was.
it's only when I yelled at you.
No,
that
no,
you-
if I wasn't attacked, I would have followed through.
Maybe.
Maybe, he doesn't even know me. Sophie, talk to him.
Talk to me.
Talk to you.
I know you, and I've
You
heard
don't know me at all.
Just in
You
this
didn't-
conversation,
I know.
sir.
No, you don't.
Sir, just in
Well,
this
tell me
conversation.
how many people you've helped get over their delusions. How many people have you helped them?
Yes,
Tell-
baby.
How have you helped them?
It takes easily 10 years.
Okay.
Easily 10 years.
would you
in
think
nine out of 10
Is there any
cases.
delusional points on your part?
Of course.
Okay. How do we get you to see your delusion?
What's my delusion? Tell me what you think my delusion is.
I don't know. I said, is there any? You said, of course. I
Of-
want to know what they are.
Just yesterday, I was talking with a real theologian, not like
Mhm.
pretender theology like you and me. And I say that in all sincerity.
Okay. And what did they say to you?
And they said, they provided me a book called The Passionate Christian, I think. The Passionate something or other. Anyway, they gave me a book of real theology and said, in this book, it is documented that every time Jesus had an encounter with anyone, he learned.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
Why are you
I
so
agree
quick
with
to agree?
Because it makes sense to me. Why would I not agree with that?
Because
I use
what
that
I-
in application to my own experience. That's why I agree.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay. What impresses me, among other things about you,
Okay.
in an unimpressive way, is you're very quick to agree instead of
No.
letting it in,
No,
registering.
I understand. Yes, I just did that.
Register. You do that a lot, my friend.
You don't know me.
I
I met
do.
you
I've
twice. when
I've
you
seen you
said
at
that,
two
about,
webinars.
when you said that about Jesus, that registered
You
with
could have
my.
just taken a half a minute to let it
And
register.
you could have done other things too.
Don't get defensive
No,
on me,
no.
brother.
I am being
I'm
defensive.
attacking you.
Well,
I'm
that's
attacking
why I'm
you.
defensive.
Well, you
When
should
someone attacks.
Well, don't.
Well,
be.
you know,
Don't be.
I'm not as good as Jesus. Though.
I think that we should all behave for Sophie's sake because she is a new guest and she's sensitive and loving and
I'm used to it.
Aw.
Don't worry.
I'm used to it.
Sophie, do you,
No,
Sophie,
she
do you
went
have
into
a
the
message
thick of
for
it
each
here.
of us? Sophie, do you have a message for each of us?
Okay.
Let's move it up to a little bit higher plane and less confrontational, Alan.
What I think is that we all are afraid of letting ourselves shine because we think that they will not accept us as we are.
I like that.
I like that.
And Marla, we'll let that soak in, but then when we've soaked it, Marla, do you have a message for us?
I don't know how any message could be better than that. But the message that I get, just hold on. I think it is that love flow that I think I would call more energy than love. I think just let our systems open and start flowing. And who knows what will happen? But I think that's it. You know, and Elizabeth, go ahead, Sophie.
She said she agrees.
I agree. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, she says she agrees.
No, please interrupt.
No, go ahead. Finish, Marla. Go ahead.
That's it, really. I think just opening up the system and flowing, which yes. I was doing myself earlier.
Right. I just want to say to Tony, come in here, Tony. When I say people are pure in their intent, I give people credit and love them in their expression, which allows another space to open up.
Amen.
That's what I'm saying here. If we
I
accept
agree
people,
with you on that.
if we accept people and don't like their behavior, but say they are trying to do the best where they can, where they're at, and they need help. We all need some help.
We all need it.
And some people are more delusional than others.
I
And
agree
I
with
think
I agree
everyone,
with all
and I
that.
think
I agree
everyone
with all
is,
that.
if we learn to, then we'd all see the world like Sophie, pure.
Hey,
Henrietta,
Sophie.
oh, come in.
Sophie, we love you.
I haven't joined in for the evening for various reasons, but I have listened, and it's been wonderful to listen to debate. And I actually think I do want to just chime in what I do think.
Yeah, please.
That what Tony has brought to the table, which I really value, is what I think we lack a lot of. I agree with everything that Sophie says and Alan about purity of heart, but we need critical thinking. And we need debate, and we need to be able to get angry and to debate, because the little I know about the Buddhist masters or Jesus or Judaism, the very little I know, they take part, they question, they debate. Anger is allowed because it's an energy that allows intelligent discussion to flow, and in that space there's discovery. And if somebody says to me too much about purity of heart, which I believe in fundamentally, but we need more than that, because that doesn't work alone. That's what I think.
We all need a little bit of everything to live.
Yeah, but we need our ability to analyze, to allow ourselves to disagree. And I do think that the conversation is more useful when we can move past platitudes.
Yes.
That don't really speak to us or help us.
And
that's my, and
thank you.
you know,
I like that. Thank you. No, I think it's
well, I think it's great that there was a heated debate from a different point of view, you know,
Yeah.
or a
Maybe not
different
so,
sense.
it wasn't even so different.
No, it's not so
Ultimately,
different.
I think Alan and I agree.
I do too.
I agree, but I still haven't heard a solution
Ah,
to the delusional evil
But
that
can
is
I-
out there.
Can I say something
Yes.
about that? These, as Tony rightly said, are not simple questions with simple answers. We cannot sit on a webinar for an hour and
Yes.
come up with a platitude where we all feel good about ourselves. We
Mm.
need to do action every day,
Critical thinking.
critical thinking, but
And
action
deepening-
together.
Yes, and
As a
deepening
village.
levels of acceptance of self and others.
Yeah.
Yes, even
And-
if they are doing wrong, if you accept them, they
But
have a
doing
chance to
wrong-
change. I'm talking about the
I
people who,
agree.
that,
I agree.
how, I mean, maybe there's no easy answer to help people change if there are,
There's no easy answer.
you have something to say, Sophie,
May
please?
I-
And this man.
Yes,
I
of
think
course.
that we all have the power to change and
Wait.
to.
What's
We all
that?
have the power to change and to listen and to hear and to
But we don't
talk.
have,
But as a community, we need to come together and have a time together to
And I think
have
that's
an
part of the solution.
action
That's a big part of the solution. It's a
to-
team sport. Saving souls is a team sport. What are you gonna say?
I agree with Sophie, but it made me think that, you know, we're the lucky ones sitting here talking about this. For those that are deluded
Mm,
and suffering
mm,
and deeply in
Including
trouble and
ourselves, by the
struggling,
way.
yes, but those that are really
Yes,
rock
yeah,
bottom in a
yeah,
different place,
Yes,
it is our job to support those people, to raise
help
them up
them.
in whatever way we can, and not even to get into discussions about how can we help them, because you know what, we don't know how.
No,
What we
But we
do
can
is we do
try.
our best.
of course, we don't know
we
how,
go
but,
step by step.
but we can have this, you know.
Yeah, but sometimes it might be
Sense.
misguided.
including.
But it's always misguided because we don't know the ultimate.
Not always.
No, I'm saying, no,
mistake.
I'm saying it's always misguided because we don't see the bigger picture.
Well,
There
Well,
is
it's
something
also
else going
Emotional in
on.
a way.
That's
we can
why
do is see
Marla
what we
asked
see.
the original question about that 2% out there, because we don't see what the big
we
picture
don't see
is.
the whole deal, but
Right.
we see what we can see.
And we do what we can do to make it better.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
with you on that.
And I would agree with you. The
Yeah.
beginning point again and again is to accept somebody and start with where they are.
That's all
But
I was
that's a-
saying, Tony.
No,
Yes. Well, if you would have let me
That's all
finish.
you were saying, but you needed to say more because you kept it. That's the beginning point, not the ending point.
I know that. I don't accept, but evil or
Don't be so
negative.
quick to defend yourself,
No,
brother.
I
I'm
only
telling you right
defend-
now.
I know.
Stop,
but-
look, and listen.
No,
Time out.
no. Tony,
Time out.
Tony, you have to
Time out.
change your attitude.
Time
Change-
out.
No, but
Time out.
change your approach.
Referee, time out.
You're not the referee. You're the
Right now,
opponent.
I'm
No, you're the
proposing.
opponent right now. Anyway, just tell me what you were gonna say.
I was
in a
gonna say,
way-
let's both stop talking.
Okay, perfect.
I think, I'll just say something right now. I think, Tony, that what you said, and I wrote it down, selfish versus selfishness. I think that that goes so much deeper and so much wider because, you know, it sounds like a little bit of a platitude, right? We've all thought it. But when you said it tonight, I really heard it differently, you know, not just like simple acts of kindness or, you know, but really what is selfish versus selfishness? That's
Selfish versus selflessness.
that and the embodiment of love from Elisabeth. That's what I'm taking.
Amen.
Well, that's good. And
Thank you.
And what are you taking away from this, Michael?
Well, just again, what came to mind for me was, you know, the teaching of the Course in Miracles, which again, Marianne Williamson helped popularize, which is love is letting go of fear. So that there is that underlying love that's there. There's also deep fear and negativities. And
Yep.
when we can let go of the fear, then the love becomes present. And again, you know, it's just interesting to listen to the conversation between you and Tony, because I speak to Tony, you know, like almost every, you know, multiple times a day. And Tony is always the proponent of in dealing with people, love, non-judgment, acceptance. This is actually the first time I ever heard him coming down where he's coming. Normally, he's all about loving and accepting everyone,
Michael, I sometimes rip into you.
Well, you only rip into me, but I mean not others. But okay. You're normally the proponent of love and acceptance, right? Boober and all of that, right? Aren't you? Am I misrepresenting you? Now I know you're the Jesus holy prophet chasing the money changers out. But what?
Oh, okay. What's that, Michael? What? Sorry, that.
I said now Tony is the
Michael.
wrathful. Now Tony is the wrathful, Jesus, bringing the wrathful anger to, the money changers or the impure. But often Tony is the proponent of acceptance and love. Is that not true, Tony?
He's frozen thinking about that, Michael.
Okay.
We'll get an answer.
But I think as a community, we can come together. And I think as a community, to the extent to which, it's important that the issue between Tony and Alan resolve, and Tony understand that maybe for skillful means, expressing anger to someone who's been traumatized by anger is not the way to communicate to them. And maybe, a hand on the shoulder, hey, brother, in a loving way, it's not that simple, could bring people together quicker. But the underlying question that we're asking, that Tony's addressing, or that Alan asked of Tony, which is how do you deal with delusion, and the fact that when Tony's experienced deep delusion can take 10 years to heal, where people are well grounded in it. They're seeing a psychiatrist who isn't dealing with mild neurosis, but dealing with deeper issues. Then, so that's relevant to us as we deal with each other individually or those in our broader circle, but also raises other questions when we're dealing with societal psychosis or societal ignorance or societal blindness or not wanting to see things. But again, I think there's a lot of great insight from looking within. This is a part of a teaching of Byron Katie, who I have a great respect for, which is when you're condemning something outside, seeing the seed of it inside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Turning it around and seeing it inside of yourself, and then accepting, loving that part of yourself, and then shifting the energy the way Tony would want, delusional, hurtful people to turn around their energy. And Alan, of course, would want the same.
Mm-hmm.
But I think part of it is skillful means, skillful means and how we deal with each other. And I think for Tony to understand that in dealing with Alan, a loving, hey, brother kind of thing works better than, defending. And I'm not condemning him for it. I do in my reality, I do what Tony does a lot more than he does, which is, get angry and be passionate and stand up for the truth and, whatever that's gotten me kicked out of corporate consulting assignments at major companies, when I'm even standing up for the truth of, what's in the best interest of the company against people, in senior management trying to hijack it for their selfish agenda, not the company's agenda and the well-being of, some major companies for all. But, these are big questions we're talking about with, I think, very important significance in terms of our individual lives, how we interact with each other, how we interact as friends, like in this circle, supporters, how we become lovers, what it means to be lovers in a broader sense than just in a sexual sense, and then how to be lovers of this planet and how to be effective, say, with the people who are delusional, whether on an individual basis, which in my work with people I've had experience with as well, helping people deal with different aspects of mental illness that I've encountered in workshops or through workshops I've led. But then how you deal with the bigger problems of society, and there are vast problems that we're dealing with right now that do need solutions. And I think our group, both energetically and intellectually, has a lot to contribute to these very important questions.
I agree.
I think so too. And I think what Marla brought up was so key to understanding the sort of root of the problem. Why do we not all have the same wants and needs? What is in the way of us all agreeing? I mean,
An excellent question.
I mean, and it's these forces that maybe exist to counter peace and light and love, and then maybe they're not nice, but maybe it's to highlight a purpose in this world? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
But
Can I
that's
say
part of it.
something
The other
more
part,
about
which
Michael? Oh, sorry.
What's that, Tony? Wait, Tony, go ahead. Tony. No, not Tony. Michael, I mean, Michael,
oh,
sorry.
the other part is what you articulated yourself in terms of your interaction with Tony. You know, you've been traumatized by anger and it doesn't work with you. So we know that our own wounds get in the way of, you know.
It doesn't work for me because
It just doesn't.
It's anger. It's very close to violence, which is close to war, which is close to delusional thinking that they're right. If they, it leads to a severing of
relatedness.
the love, actually.
Love. And for you, it shuts you down rather than has you come to a place where you're open to listening to what someone else has to say.
Well, I have to
They
defend
approach you
myself.
with anger, it shuts you down. So
it
it's not
becomes
skillful.
defensive.
Yeah,
I
it shuts
do.
you down. It's not the way to communicate with you.
Right. Maybe it works for other people.
Right. Doesn't work for you.
Does it work for you?
It can. I mean, it can. It can, I'm more open to them that depending if I have some relatedness with the person, it could shut me up and then have me listen to what they say and pay attention. But in other space, it could also, I'm more triggered by fear than I am by anger.
Right. Well, we're all trying to be.
Tony knows I'm triggered by like physical fear,
Right.
Like, people who are going to rob me, mug me. And, when I see the way our psychic kind of things impact our views of the larger whole, right?
Right. So we're all trying to work.
For instance, like just in terms of how it works out in terms of the different domains, I'm less sympathetic than a lot of, white liberals or something about, rights for the criminals in our society who rob people and break into their homes with guns. I have less space to be loving towards them and sympathetic. And
of course, they have reasons for doing that too.
Yes, a lot of Mexicans are in a place that they are poor and they don't have options to get out of it. And they think that the only way that they can get out of situations that are probably dangerous is by robbing and by doing things that seems like they're the great option in the moment, but if they don't analyze what they're doing, they will not see that it's wrong in the end.
Right. And that's all great. And I see that. And I'm just saying, for me, I want to stay away from those people, and that influences how, my attitude towards them. Whereas someone else who maybe doesn't have fear is more welcoming of them and their choices that they make to rob, because that's what they.
But it's a big
do.
problem. How does everyone live harmoniously in a place where I know it's possible? Don't you think it's possible, Marla, that harmony?
But let's start with the harmony among us.
I do think that this is an example of where people who come from different backgrounds and different philosophies and different experiences you, Alan, have created many communities, not just this one.
Right.
And Michael, I'm going to go back to what you said, is that community is hugely important. And that, I think, is the place where we learn to let go of some of that psychological fear, that emotional fear. If we really feel accepted, I think that we can let down and be more open. I mean, especially for people like us who are maybe having, I'm just going to say, Ellen, as you know, I was not exposing myself as a psychic, as you called me, an interdimensional traveler, all of that stuff. I was not, because I had experienced a lot of criticism. And I've thought a lot about this since the first show I did with you. And I just think, oh my God, anybody who's out there who's having the kinds of experiences that any of us are, like, just know that you're not alone. And this is wonderful that we can be the different people that we are, still talking about the same subjects and still being so aligned.
No, thank you. I really appreciate you being there and being part of the And I think maybe there's just things triggering each other.
Can't really, you're not coming up. We're not really hearing you, Alan. We're not hearing you well.
About some of these items tonight. Yeah, sorry. There's now.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Now we can.
Maybe, perhaps.
Go ahead. Try. I'm going to shut up and it'll get better.
What I think is that
Now you're frozen.
Frozen.
Sophia, you're frozen. We couldn't hear you.
Michael, it's just you and me again, baby.
Okay. I appreciate you so much. Would love to speak with you sometime, one-on-one too. And I think it's wise.
You say.
Yeah, and it's wise also that you're a little cautious with what you do. I think this has enough of a limited audience, but there is the reality of where you don't need people's negativity attacking you for whatever. Having discriminating wisdom is wise still, right?
Oh, that's very kind of you. I kind of feel like now, well, if I'm showing myself and I'm such a private person, then, maybe it's time for many of us to do the same. I mean, that's speaking to your sense of community.
Yeah. No, I agree. Sophie had something to say about what she got here.
Okay, good.
what I got here is that we all have our points of view, that if we really hear each other, we can learn a lot and we can move forward as humanitarians.
Yes.
I think that we all have our options and our truths that makes all of us communicate and be a community in the end.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. What I realize is like when you hit someone's trigger, it goes off and it short circuits everything else that could be said. So, there was a trigger there with our good friend Tony, who that was all he could hear. And he couldn't get the kind of essence of the message where it's saying that.
That happens to me too. Sometimes.
I think it happens to me too. I get triggered and then I react and I don't hear the rest of it. But what I was trying to say is that I respect people for where they're coming from, no matter, in a way, I don't believe in their delusions, but if they believe in it, I mean, I've heard so many out there things. It's like, how do I know the truth? I know what's true for me. I don't agree with, going to war or all those awful things. And I wouldn't support that. But people are so dogmatic and closed-minded that they've been locked inside their own box. And I'm always trying to find a way in to pry them out of the box.
Okay, well, that's part of the task of skillful means, of being skillful.
That's what I mean. Me getting out of my box.
You getting out of your box.
Yes, I'm stuck in my box. And
Well, you're pretty good. I mean,
wouldn't
Marla's.
say you were stuck in a box. I'm no longer stuck in a box, thanks to Alan.
Sophie,
There's
do you
more.
have a message from any message you have for Marla? Anything you
Yes,
see from
any
Marla?
message you have for Marla?
I think that you're amazing. I think that you can.
Why is she amazing?
Because she can communicate to people and express their feelings, and she can listen, and she can have connections to other dimensions and transmit it to people without them getting nervous.
Great. That's beautiful reading for you, Marla. That's
Love that. Sophie, thank you.
anything you want to say to me?
Sophie, any message for any message for Alan? Oh, I'm
How
sorry.
about message for my?
Sophie, I don't know if you can hear me, but that makes me feel more brave.
Right now, in this point of your life, because people are listening to you and you're listening to people.
Yes,
And
because of what you just
happy.
said to me.
And that makes you happy. But that people can hear and you can hear people. You're also one person that is open, but closed for things that make you afraid. And you are someone kind, humble, but you get positive. You're a positive person. You're a positive person.
Positive.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
You're a positive person.
Oh, so you
Thank you,
haven't
Sophie.
want to say something to me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, please, yes, sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
Sophie, for Alan, a message.
Yes.
Yes, I think that you're a person that came to this earth to make communities
Oh,
with people. I think that
thank
you're
you.
open. I
Yeah.
think you're listening, and that's what makes you powerful. You listen to people, and
Good.
you're here.
Tell that to Tony.
I think that you sometimes you close yourself because you're afraid of people
Judging,
judging you.
yes, yes.
Is
Thank
that
you.
true,
That's-
Ellen?
What's that?
Are you, I can't believe that you would be afraid of any judgment.
No, I don't like judgment. I don't. But we all, it's part of the territory. People are gonna, say awful things about your YouTube or this, and it's not like it does bother. But what are you gonna do, right? I'm getting used to it.
Is Tony, Alan, is Tony there, or Henrietta? Maybe Henrietta next or something.
Tony, you have any final words?
No, for Sophia.
Oh, you gotta say something about
I
Tony.
didn't get one either. Did you, Michael?
No, I didn't get
Yes,
one
she-
either.
Sophie, give a reading to Michael.
She just did.
just
She just did. Did you not? hear?
No, I thought it was to you, Alan. Oh, it's frozen.
It's frozen.
Frozen. I thought she was talking to Alan. What did you think, Marla?
I did. I thought she was talking to Ellen too. I think she was. So as soon as they unfreeze, we'll have her.
She
get
is
something.
pretty remarkable, huh?
She's very remarkable. How fortunate are we tonight to have met
Yes.
Sophie? Can she join us all the time? She probably has a life to live, but
Well, we'll talk Alan to get her the next time, and we'll do it one at a time.
that sounds great. I don't know if we're going to get them back.
Oh, they'll come. They came back the last time. I'm sure they'll be back again right after some technical glitch at Alan's end. It's nice that we stay on, even though they're originating the Zoom call, but computers are complicated machines, right?
Yes.
I have some interesting technology that creates three-dimensional images that appear above a screen that we can use also for putting, messages out into the world. We haven't released it. It's not known in the tech world, but that's what I work on day to day, is this technology that, that's been handed. And I'm recording this on this thing, but yes, we have this technology. It's hologram-like, but it's, vivid colors and both CGI and people, and we can use it to put some positive consciousness out in the world when we release it into the world, which we'll want to do together with like a music video with some big music star and its film trailer for a superhero movie. But it's a new technology that will be coming on the planet. So you
Michael?
can see things like above the screen, flying or standing.
Okay, Michael, I can't believe that you're saying this to me, because I have seen so many times, especially when I'm looking at, let's say a mother asked me to look at her high school age daughter or son, and I look ahead to their future, and I see that so many people who are now high school age are going to be working with exactly the kind of technology that you're talking about. I can't even believe you're saying this. So I see that when they work with technology, it's all up here. There's no need for a keyboard. There's no need for any of that. They're able to, yes, I can't believe
we have like gesture control where you can move things just by moving your hand. I mean, these are the things, that are coming in. And from one of my teachers, this stuff has come in from other dimensions to the person who created the technology.
This is unbelievable.
but I'll get from your email and I'll send you some of the stuff you can see. You know, where are you based? Where do you physically live?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to probably Los Angeles will be one of the centers of where we're operating from because of so much of the entertainment industry, you know, is there. So, you know, we'll have a chance to show it to you in person.
Oh my God, I can't believe this is so exciting. And, you know, we've seen this in movies and television.
Right. But we have it now in real.
Yes.
Yeah, we have it in real.
And so the people who are, let's say, a senior in high school now, by the time they get into whatever the corporate world is, then that's what I've seen. They'll be able to utilize this. Now, I haven't seen that like every person will be utilizing it in this time frame, but I've seen that people who work with computers or
you know, I don't know how it'll be adopted, but it could be put on every, you know, cell phone. It may not be. You know, I had known Steve Jobs, you know, when he was earlier in his career.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And, yeah, I mean, because you know, I had breakfast with him and his assistant with my wife. And, you know, we had this connection because he had gone to to India to meet Nim Karoli Baba, this great master of Baba Ramdas, who I studied with as well. And, you know, when Jobs passed away, he had Nim Karoli Baba's pictures around him. Yeah, so I know that from Larry Brilliant, who's the WHO doctor who ended, you know, smallpox with Nim Karoli Baba's help, telling him what villages to go to in India.
Oh.
You know, and he was like the head of the Google Foundation, but he was close with Jobs at the end of his, you know, life and was there with him when he passed away. So, I mean, he sent you know, Mark Zuckerberg to that ashram when Mark had some questions, you know, Steve Jobs did. But I mean, if we can bring consciousness and this kind of conscious awareness and higher energies into the tech world, that could be very powerful. And I'll have an opportunity, you know, if I have the blessing to do it that way with this new technology, because we can direct how it's used initially. But it could be just on every iPhone and every Android device.
My God, so
everyone has access to, or it could be just more specialized, you know, that, you know, certain people, you know, will have access to it. I don't know how it's going to unfold, but if the divine allows it to expand in a big way and to use this also for the new kind of consciousness that we're talking about, crystallize it and bring it forward, I think that could be great, because we really can take a crystallized message, you know, with someone who's animated, maybe someone who's a celebrity who could talk about what we're crystallizing here in this conversation. And at the same time that we have Wonder Woman talking about something to little girls, which is part of our vision, we could have like you bringing some message, or, you know, Beyonce or whatever in song, you know, into the world. And we have, you know, through people that we know that know other people, and we're talking to people who have access to like people like Beyonce right now, and, you know, other big celebrities, and, you know, heads of some major institutions. Nothing's clicked yet, but that's part of what's out in the space. So, you know, I'm going to be seeing you know, an important, I don't know, this is going out on the internet, but, you know, an important business leader, not this next Monday, but the following, you know, Monday, who could really bring this out to the, you know, to the leaders of the business community.
What are you talking about, Michael?
I was just talking, it was one-on-one. We were talking about this technology that I work with as my day job that creates like hologram-like images that can appear above a phone or a tablet without glasses. So you see something three-dimensional above the screen, and that we could crystallize what we're talking about here, crystallize a few messages. And when we first put the technology out into the world, you know, hopefully with an A-list movie star, an A-list music star, we could also have someone representing the thinking that we're coalescing here and put that out into the world.
And I don't know if Alan can hear us, but I'll just say again that this is exactly what I've seen that different people will be working with. It's amazing. Michael,
well, maybe you'll be working.
So glad I met you.
Yeah. Wow, that's so great. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, I've been waiting to see, like, you know, when it would come, because I've seen it for too many people to not to,
All right,
you know.
well, it's here now. It's here now. The technology is here now.
What
We
do
have
you
the software.
estimate in terms of years that it would be, as I said, used by people who understood how to use it? And then beyond that, how many years it would take for us all to be using it?
It could be out there in a year and a half to the people who understand, or a year, or some of them even in a shorter period of time. Someone that we're talking to, someone who's, even on this phone has a connection to Pixar. So those kind of people could be using it within a few months. And then it could even, depending on how time unfolds, it could be 2 years that it's a year and a half it's generally available, or it could be 2 years if it takes slower, or 4 years on the outside. But, it could be out there pretty quickly if we do it in a right way. There's, some A-list movie stars who are in this circle. And if it's put out into the world that way, with the backing of like Warner Brothers, the backing of Disney, the backing of those kind of people, plus putting our own messages out there at the same time they're putting messages out there, or getting the Dalai Lama to put out a message, or some other luminaries, this thing could explode in terms of it being known in the general public and in the tech world, whereas right now it's not known either place. The tech community doesn't know that what we have exists, and the general public doesn't know we're keeping it secret until we're ready to launch it. And I mean, this little video on YouTube is only, I don't think many people are watching, so I'm not concerned or whatever. If they come to it, I'll view it as divinely they're supposed to hear about it. So
this is so exciting, Michael. So exciting. I love technology. And I love that we can just, we've all said it before, but that we can just do what we're doing right now. It's like a miracle.
Yeah, it's a miracle now. And in the future, or now, we don't have the ability yet, but with chips, I mean, we could record you now and you would be standing above a screen and someone could see you like you're in the room with them. That we have the technology for now, but there's no reason that we couldn't develop the chips and then process it so that it could be in real time, like we're having real time this video call. That we can't do yet, but that's the future.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah. And if the message, and if some of the early messages that come from this new technology is new thinking needed for the planet, maybe that's a powerful way of getting some of this new thinking out there.
I agree. Because that goes back to when we were talking about people being deluded. Well, I know that you're going to agree with me, like we're all deluded. I mean, I know that you feel as I do, like it's always kind of our job to keep examining what those delusions are, and are they real or not, and are they valuable or not. And
yeah, but also just for me, seeing when I'm in my mind and not being aware and present, when I'm in that limited mental reactive mind, then even if it's not, quote, delusional from a psychiatric point of view, it's just like mental constructs. I'm living in a very much more limited world, which is cut off from wisdom or from love or from that energy. So it's very partial. It doesn't have wisdom. And then sometimes it's very stupid or delusional. Yes, even like that. That's how personally I can work with other people's delusions, because I have to work with my own. So I get insight into the way delusion works, right?
Absolutely. Our little beliefs, and then how we can construct the whole world to look like we want it to. Yeah, right. I think that's one of the challenges of being aware of being, I think it is part of the challenge of being spiritual currently, which I don't think that it used to be, in my humble opinion. And I think now we do have the freedom and the autonomy to really examine ourselves as spiritual earthly beings. I mean, I think this is an incredible time. But just to go back to your point yet again, Michael, what we don't have is the community. And that's what we need to keep fostering, I think.
Well, that's what I think what we're doing in a microcosm here, and we have in this circle filmmakers, so we can distill what we have here there's almost like My Dinner with Andre. Do you remember that movie?
I love that movie.
So we could create like a film that would be a kind of dialogue between different people, or get it more complex, that comes to give people the insights that we're getting here, but in a way that in a more entertaining and time efficient way that we could communicate to many people.
It'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
And I think that's
Read a
doable.
poem.
Oh, wait, we're back here.
We're back. Can I read a poem that relates to communication and community?
Of
Yes.
course.
Could you guys hear us the whole time?
No. We
Oh my
just
God,
came
you
back
missed the
in.
best part. Just kidding.
Okay, we're gonna listen to the archive at midnight.
Go
But in-
ahead, Tony.
But in
Go
the
ahead.
meantime, this is a partial answer to this good man Alan's question.
But before you do that, Michael, I'd love to see your technology sometime. We'll have another conversation. But
All
that
right, very good, cool. But we can use it to take what we're distilling here and put it forward into the world in a powerful way, just so that it's an expansion of your work, Alan.
yes. Okay, Tony, go ahead.
So in partial answer to Alan's question, what's the solution? And in partial answer to the question of building community, here we go. And this is a poem written by a Mass General Hospital psychologist named Gina O'Connell Higgins. Gina O'Connell Higgins, in her book, Resilient Adults, Overcoming a Cruel Past. And let's face it, we as humanity are all overcoming a cruel past. In the still stark terror of the night, a hummingbird heart beats in the bedrock beneath despair. Smitten by empty-souled cold stone, yet thumping insistently, the faintest beat on the tiniest drum. Love is yet alive in me. Ice, ash, and hate cannot purloin possibility. Hammering with small triumphant wings against the stale, suffocating air, beckoning to tattered fellow fledglings. Rise above, sail beyond, until these sturdy souls, in collective hope, lurch, ultimately launch beyond the ravages of hate, aloft in the currents formed by the first breath of every newborn.
Wow. Can you read that one line, please, again about love? It was on I think the first page that you were on.
Sure.
Just that short line.
Yeah. Love is yet alive in me.
Love is yet
Ice, ash, and hate cannot purloin possibility.
Love is yet alive in me.
By the way, it relates beautifully to us, something that Vincent van Gogh wrote to his brother Theo. That was one of my Zen teacher, Albert Lowe's, favorite lines ever, where he wrote in a letter to his brother Theo, "Something is alive in me. What can it be? Something's alive in me. What can it be?"
Mm-hmm.
Which is a kind of Zen koan in a way.
Mm-hmm. And
what? Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I gave a very short, like, micro reading to someone yesterday. I don't even know who they are. It was just a weird thing, but I saw that in him, it was like all the cells of his body and his genetics were sitting up for this purpose that he has yet to complete. Like,
Amen.
part of the process, he's done other things, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what your
Yeah.
two there speak to me about, is that,
Yeah.
there's something sitting up and paying attention in you.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
something additional driving the machine.
The real woke. The real woke. And Emerson, the one line from Emerson, it's actually a quote from the same book, Resilient Adults. And thus, like the wounded oyster, he mends his shell with pearl. And yet, like a wounded oyster, he mends his shell with pearl.
Isn't that so beautiful?
Right?
It's like the Japanese concept of a broken piece of pottery being put together and with gold and the cracks still showing, right?
Wabi sabi.
Yes, couldn't think of it. Yes.
Leonard Cohen, what's his famous line, which is really, there's a crack in everything. That's what lets the light in.
Oh, was that Leonard Cohen?
It's Leonard Cohen in either Anthem or Hallelujah. There's a crack in everything. That's what lets the light in. Yeah. Rebbe Cohen.
Exactly what Michael and I were just talking about with self-delusion.
Mm.
Right?
Nice. Sweet.
Well, this has been an incredible evening, as always.
Marla, where are you based?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. Where in
Can you
LA?
not tell by my background? I'm just kidding. My fake background.
Where in LA?
Actually, I'm currently in Orange County.
Near Disneyland?
Not too far. Not too far.
My twin brother.
I'm moving this week, but I currently have been living on the coastal side of Orange County. So
And you
Where are you
moving
moving
back to
to?
LA?
yeah, well, I don't know. Yes. Yes is the answer. But I did live in New York, so I know your world.
So my twin brother Jay, who lived in LA for almost 30 years, is back in LA at the moment. He's kind of bi-coastal.
That's a good life, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's the beginnings of a good life. What you put into it makes it good or not. It's not bad. I personally wouldn't want to be shuttling back and forth between LA and New York every month or two, but you know, if they give me a 3-picture deal, I'd be willing to do it.
You'd suffer through it.
I'd manage. I'd manage to suck it up. Yeah. Well, and he almost has a 3-picture. He's a filmmaker, so he has a good excuse.
So you're both life creators in a way.
Yeah. Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? That's a good place to end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you just say that, Tony, just one more time? Love is alive in me. Can you just repeat that for me, please?
Yeah. Love is alive in me.
That's all I
Love is
wanted.
alive in me. Ice, ash, and hate cannot purloin possibility.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Change of clothing.
Too hot in this apartment.
Yes,
Too
I
hot to
wanted to
handle.
say
it's fresh.
We're getting a
Thank you
fashion
so
show.
much
A
that
fashion show.
Marla and Michael, I'm sorry I couldn't join you earlier, but thank you to everybody for your contribution.
Can we
I'm
have
so glad
Sophie
you
every
know
time?
that.
Sophie, can we have you every time?
You wanted
Yes.
to say something. Sophie, what were you going to say?
I just wanted to say that you were beautiful people, and I'm glad to meet you all.
Oh.
So can you come next time? Marla wants you to come next time and every time. Can you come next time?
I know the core
Sophie.
crew is fantastic.
I don't know exactly
We'll
if
see.
I may.
We'll see.
Include
If
that
you're
in the
if you're only if
maybe. I don't know. I never know,
Oh,
but maybe you
oh.
could.
Her
Okay,
people
only
get
if you're
back
on planet Earth. If you're on planet Earth, if you could come. If you have to be traveling to some other dimensions or other planets, we understand that you'll be missing next week.
But her
if you're
people,
on planet
get
Earth,
back to it.
Many people will get back
Her
to you.
people will get back to
Spent
your
a day
people.
at the planetarium. Your
Sophie-
God out into the cosmos.
You did, actually.
We went into the planetarium and to the
Today.
Natural
It was so
History Museum.
fun.
So we went back a few billion years. We sort of time traveled.
To worlds beyond Earth.
Yeah, worlds beyond Earth.
Sometime we should
That's the
have
actual
Neil.
topic of this whole
Let's have the
roundtable.
intent to have Neil deGrasse Tyson on one of these calls. He's a lovely person. You know, who's the astrophysicist
Neil
at the
deGrasse.
planetarium.
Irritates me.
Nobody asked you. Nobody asked you.
I don't care
Nobody
if anyone
asked
asks me. Hey, it's my show. I can say denying the reality of UFOs over and over again.
Oh, is that what he does?
He says there were artifacts on the radar. That's what these pilots were seeing. So I wrote a whole article about, you know, scientific egotism. It's what Thomas Kuhn said in this Revolutions of Scientific
Paradigm. Yes.
And it's like their ego is identified with their belief system, so there's no room for them to accept.
Takes an ego
A
to
new
know an
reality.
ego. Takes an ego to know an ego.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
He's like a haunted voice in my head.
Okay.
I'm an
I
ego.
didn't know. I
We're
just knew
all
he's a
ego.
sweet man. I don't know his, views
I don't
on different things.
think he's very open. That's the problem with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
What's
He's-
the problem?
My favorite saying my favorite saying is what he says at the master class. Some people know a little bit about something and think they're right, but not a lot about something to know that they're wrong. I say that to Neil deGrasse Tyson about UFOs. He thinks,
Okay.
oh, there's nothing out there. It's all,
Hocus
why
pocus.
aren't there any pictures? It's really an ignorant place where he's coming from. So he doesn't know a lot about it. But you like him, Michael? I don't mean
No,
to.
I think just as a person, I've met him,
Oh.
went to his apartment and.
Oh, you
know,
did?
and-
How'd you?
Yeah.
I'd like to. I want to set up a debate between him and some of the top UFO people.
Maybe we can do that, but I'm just saying he's, and then I ran into him at Grand Central Station, we remembered each other, but I'm just saying on a human plane, he's at least one facet of him is he's a lovely human being. Just like, again, I'm just saying one
Ask him if he
facet of-
wants to be in a stage debate, not with me, but with like some people who've been studying this for a long, long time. I think it'd be great. Did you put that out
Ask him
there?
if he wants to go 10 rounds with Alan.
No.
In the ring.
I want to just produce a debate with those people who call themselves real scientists and those that are in this field for 20, 30 years who have researched the information.
idea.
And I want to hear both. I want to hear
Both
both
sides.
arguments and let the audience decide in a real debate circumstance who's
What does the
right.
audience know, though?
No, they don't know anything more, but who makes the better argument? That's what they know, doctor.
Well, are you talking about the audience that voted?
And then it freezes. How funny is that?
You're talking about the audience that would watch the show, but you see how the polarity between the two of them, right?
That's right. That's right. Well,
We would
Marla,
talk about Alan's audience being the audience.
Thank
Tony. I
you.
think that's Alan has in mind, not the people who voted for Trump, unless that's the majority of his
that's
audience.
not my audience. But I do want to thank Marla for really hanging in there, bringing so much to this because
Brings
kind.
soul to it.
no, because this is not your normal Wednesday night. And
It is now.
What is your normal Wednesday night?
it is now, but I really
It is
appreciate that, Marla, because you bring a whole other aspect of insight into these discussions. So,
Thank you.
and Michael, and Sophie's excited to meet you. Don't hide.
I'm excited to meet you.
Me
And
too.
Michael, I'm really happy you joined this too. Tom,
Thank you, Alan. So
We're having a
Marla and
wonderful
Sophie, can you take Alan's aspiration that's pure for this program and for this show and bring it into the deep into the divine?
Let's do it right now.
The Sophie, Marla, Sophie, Alan's aspiration, if we don't know if they hear us now, so you can do it. And then when they come
Okay,
back.
you can
we
do it with
ask
me.
Sophie. Okay, let's do it together.
Okay. Can you just say the words again, please, Michael?
to Alan's aspiration for expanding the show to bring in Neil deGrasse Tyson and debate with knowledgeable experts on UFOs, if that's in the highest good for all concerned. May that go into the heart of light of the divine, and with the helpers of light, may that manifest swiftly and easily, if that's for the good of all concerned and for the unfoldment of consciousness on this planet and love on this planet.
Okay. Hey, and then Michael, you and I can send love to everyone who's made it this far.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. Okay, so to everyone, Michael and I are joining together, and then we're going to send you love. That was juicy, wasn't it?
Yes.
I hope everybody felt a tiny bit of that.
I did.
Me too. You know, I'm going to just say one thing. As a teacher, I always like to point these kinds of things out. But if anybody was watching me, you could see that I had some rapid eye movement. And that can be a part of having for lack of a better word, a spiritual experience, right? Or a psychic experience, or a little bit otherworldly experience, is that rapid eye movement that can happen when you're sending energy, receiving energy, any of that. I don't know. I like to point these things out, Michael.
Wonderful, wonderful, good. You're a
Because
teacher.
I don't want any, you know, my goal is, and if I can ever finish writing this book, it'll be really good. I'm on the last chapter, but my goal is to help people accept how psychic and spiritual experiences happen for them without expectations of how they think it should happen, or how others tell them it should happen. So I like to bring up these little things so that if somebody, when they're experiencing energy, is having rapid eye movement, that they'll think, oh yeah, that's normal.
Well, let's send out some energy now for the success of your completing the book and the success of the book.
Oh my God, we need a lot of that.
Okay, so let's do for that. Let's go in deep for that.
Thank you. And for all your projects.
Thank you.
And for everyone's projects, right?
Well, for the projects that we know. We don't want to respect Tony. Some projects could be for ill, but let's stay with our little community. Let's stay with each other. And then what we know, right? Critical thinking also.
That is true, Michael. Ooh, that was nice.
You see, for me, the nice, one interesting thing is, which is not a surprise to me from things that have been, told from a long time ago, is, I have access, I'm in the top 10th of a percent or 100th of a percent in terms of having access to the leaders, the leaders of the planet, or other people that I know who are, friends with people in some of the most important positions, like in America or in other societies. It's just, how my life is unfolded. So if I could have the wisdom and the skill and the energy and the purity to bring consciousness to them, again, I'm going to be meeting with someone the week after next who could be an enormous, source of good, enormous source of good on the planet. Who has access to some of the most important people in the, in leadership positions in the business world and in other domains, but particularly in the business world. Other people I know who know, some of the leaders of our government. And, some of the leaders in our government are actually good people. I'm very cynical about government, so don't, because I ran for Congress, I experienced it. but some of them are good-hearted, good people. Some of them are people who've been hurt, who I think had good intent. At least that's my sense of them. I'm talking about some, very extremely well-known political leaders in this country. And then some people even can, bring in, some people can be delusional and negative and ego-driven, but that doesn't mean that they can't also bring in some truths or recognize some truths. So if we could have a more conscious sense of community and exploring and sharing with each other, and then also helping each other to go through our delusions, I think that's, what the planet needs. And maybe this can be some small contribution to that kind of light work, as well as psychological work like that Tony does, and having a community that can help people individually like you do and I've done in workshops that I've led, but also where we can do it on a societal level by helping to evolve people who have massive responsibilities in our institutions.
Thank you, Michael. I love that. That really gives me hope. And I hope that many people heard that. That's so hopeful.
Well, it's something we can work on in Los Angeles as well. If you're there, or, one of our investors, potential investors who I have a very good sense of is in Orange County, now. I'm developing a nice relationship with them, but we can create community that can be uplifting to people and that can be empowering to people. And I think that is part of like Tony's vision. He wants to do workshops. I've had to focus on this company, and I know I have to stay, focused on that, being the guardian of that, of people involved and the investors. But we can really create a circle of light. It's part of what Jonas Salk, asked me to do, to create a circle of light for people who can be leaders for the planet, that can recharge them, energize them, help them potentially materially if that's what they need, with credibility, so that we have fellows of the, of the Salk Institute for, conscious thinking, or applied creativity is what he called it. He was working on an AIDS vaccine at the time, so his energy was focused on AIDS when he passed, and not on the Institute. But he asked me to take that forward. It was such a big thing. I don't know what message you might have for me on this, but I was like at the Trade Center. That's where I was working at the time of 9/11. Luckily, I didn't go into the building that morning, but that shifted my life into a whole not good direction. But at least I didn't die, that day. But every other day I had been early in the morning in my office at the Trade Center for months before, working on the merger of banks, to create at the time, the biggest Japanese bank in Japan. And then it just had interesting, karma with the World Trade Center too. My sister's boyfriend of many years, his family were the biggest owners in the World Trade Center, actually. And, then another close friend of mine at the time, her very close friend was selected as the architect to redesign the World Trade Center. It was just like, it's interesting how these karmic kind of patterns work that seem to be too many synchronicities, but who knows with, these kinds of synchronicities. Then I thought, because I know about the Islamic world, because I've traveled there, I've done some work in that world. My dad's from Iran, so I know that kind of culture, studied with a Sufi master. I thought that I could help bring, peace between, that world and, the Western world, and bring light, to the Islamic world. Part of what had me then move into running for Congress, thinking that could give me, more of a position to do that work from. But I was quite cynical about the political system, but it doesn't mean that there aren't good-hearted people,
I think love this. This makes me so happy.
Really,
Barack. Want me to give you a little reading right now?
What?
You want me to give you a little reading right now?
Sure.
Okay. Well, they tell me this is obvious about you. But they tell me this is a man with a good soul and a good heart who was literally put here to help. And they say you've known that since you were about 9 years old. That was the moment. There's really never been a question about your path. There's only been evolution. So it looks like about once every 7 to 10 years, you take another big leap. And I don't know where you are right now. I guess you're poised. Oh, right now you're poised. You know, like the edge of an eagle's nest, like that. The eagle's nest is so big and giant, but you know, the fledgling is poised on the edge into that much bigger world. So I think your world has already been so huge, and I think that you're poised to go out bigger. I use the eagle analogy not because it came to me psychically, but because I was watching the Reading Eagles live cam. But they were just showing me that you're poised, like you're ready. All you have to do, I'm not. Go ahead.
Is there anything I need to do to move into that bigger space? Anything inwardly or outwardly, or
not
is
a
it
thing?
unfolding? Yeah, not a thing. Okay, that's my
2 to
sense.
3 months.
What, 3 months?
2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
For one line that you're headed in, 6 to 8 months for another line. And then you have something really big happening in 5 to 10 years, which I don't know what that is, but you're going to love it. I mean, you're going to love all of them, but that 5 to 10 years from now is, that is a project worth waiting for. This is a project that you've been hoping for. This is a project that you feel will really change the world in a way that you've always wanted to. So I don't know what that is, but it's great.
Well, you know, at some point I had this vision, which was then transmitted to President Carter and to like hundreds of other people, for solving the Middle East problem by bringing together the leaders of the countries in a remote place, which is what they did in Camp David, and bridging mistrust between the leaders so that they could bridge mistrust between the nations. But I think there's so much that could be done to build relationships, say, between, you know, Putin and others, not, you know, the political level, but the kind of level that we've been interacting with here, you know, the interpersonal level, so that we understood and didn't criticize and understood what each other's needs are, so that we could, in a maximal way, have the world leaders work in a way that's positive, you know, for all concerned. I don't mean to say naively that differences or power dynamics will, you know, go away. But, you know, just I had an insight about Putin, for instance, which Henry Kissinger, who I respect, even though I've opposed him, you know, on the Vietnam War, I'm on different sides of issues, but he understands the dynamics. You know, by alienating him, he used to come to dinner with the other Western leaders. You know, it was the G8, and they, you know, Germany and France and America, and then that we criticized him for corruption at the Olympics and for his gay rights policies, and we alienated him such that he was no longer a member of the group, and then he was like less constrained, you know, to send Russian troops or to take over Crimea or take over Ukraine, whereas at least he's in relationship with the other leaders, his behavior would have been, you know, would have been more constrained by the group of other world leaders that he was part of. I just think that there's a lot that could be done if you build relationship among these leaders, to have them be able to work together more collaboratively and to spend time actually not just discussing policy, but developing their relationships. And the same would go down to the level of, you know, the leaders in Congress or within governments. But I think the kind of thing that we were doing here today between Alan and Tony needs to be done in many different places. You know, the work Salk wanted me to do is bring together people like you, you know, the kind of people that we've had on this call, with scientists. So it's, you know, and people who have the psychic awareness to look at addressing the, you know, in private, not grandstanding, to address the critical issues facing the planet, and then see how to progress. I mean, it's a pretty grandiose notion, but he wanted he had land that was offered by the University of San Diego next to the Salk Institute in La Jolla. And the Salk Institute in La Jolla is a world-class institute for biology, many Nobel laureates on it, but he wanted an institute for metabiology, mind, consciousness, evolution. We don't have something like that yet, and something that was credentialized as a world-class institute, that was respected by the other Harvards and other things of the world, so that this wisdom could be promulgated. Because this highest wisdom doesn't have many footholds in the major institutions of our society right now.
Very interesting. We belong together.
Well, we'll get together.
The experiential, spiritual people like me belong with
others like us,
scientists, and I mean, it's really important currently that we come together, that we share, and that we connect, and that we create, right? We create something new.
So that's something that we can do, and that's something that with the money that this technology could, opens to, or also that the people that we could open to, who also are people with, significant wealth. I mean, people that I have access to are, many billionaires on the planet. I mean, and their money could be used. Diversity also needs to be diversity of views and bringing in wisdom. Diversity can't just be what it is now, which is, we need more people of different colors and whatever. We need wisdom to be included in that understanding of what diversity is. And it's not right now. Right now, it's just, we need, more Hispanic people, Black people. I mean, yes, there should be more places and opportunities for those people from those groups, right? But there needs to be an opportunity for wisdom. It's like Salk's book, Survival of the Wisest. We need to have, as a society, some understanding of, like Elisabeth has, the difference between intellect and wisdom, and have more space for wisdom on this planet, so that we can inculcate wisdom.
Oh, and then we can combine wisdom with realizing that we don't know anything.
Well, that humility is important. Part of it is asking questions, right? Part of it is asking questions. And part of Salk's methodology, because he was operating in ignorance, if I was a polio virus, how am I thinking about things? Different ways of penetrating the ignorance to develop wisdom from the ignorance, right? And respecting the vastness of ignorance. But I think the one thing, we have, like that Alan was trying to get to, was, respecting people from, not supporting them in the sense of giving them energy to be more powerful, but of respecting that people are doing the best that they can, and that if they're deluded or there's twists in their consciousness that lead to harm, that lead to causing pain for others, to support them in a way that those knots can be undone, obviously recognizing danger when danger is there, right? So that was, Tony wanted to stand up for understanding that there are dangerous phenomena on the planet that need to be dealt with. I'm a Democrat, but I would like to see the Republican Party be the best Republican Party that it can be, have wisdom. I don't want it to be the worst Republican Party so that it's marginalized and then the Democrats can defeat it. I want whatever the voices of reason and wisdom within the Republican Party or whatever party, to be what rises up.
So we need everybody to have a seat at the table, and we need everybody we need to be open to wisdom. I mean, we all carry it within us, right?
Yes.
To some degree.
And some more than others. And some bring in, like you do, the intuitive. What?
Yeah, some in different ways. I mean, some people have a lot of biological wisdom, or they have, a lot of body wisdom, and others have intellectual wisdom. And Yeah, you know, when I was young and I volunteered at a special ed classroom, and one of the teachers said to me, and these were severely compromised children, about from the ages of like 5 to 10. And a teacher said to me, you'll notice that each one of these children who cannot function in the world in any way, each one of them has a special gift. And it was true. And Donnie, I can still remember his name to this day. His specialty was loving. One of the most loving little beings I've ever met. So, yeah, we don't have to be functioning maybe at the levels we all think we should. You know, we don't have to be the most successful. We don't have to make the most money. We don't even have to be the smartest. But yeah, if we can, yeah, just be in the flow of love. What else do we need? Probably a lot, but
no, but in the flow of love, and the flow of love, it certainly makes it, and the flow of self-love as well, as we've pointed out, and self-acceptance, it makes the journey a lot smoother and easier. Not to say, you know, that there won't be bumps and, you know, or bruises and other things.
Yes, yes, I agree. And that little Donnie didn't know anything but love. Coming in and going out, he knew nothing else.
There was this beautiful movie, I Am Sam, you know, that expresses that. Did you see that movie?
No, I didn't see it.
It's with, I forgot the name, but one of the great actors who was Madonna's husband at one point plays, you know, this retarded person. Yeah, Sean Penn, yeah. I Am Sam. Has some beautiful moments you might appreciate if you like Donnie.
I like Donnie. So I guess, thank you, Michael, so much. I'm so glad we had this chance.
So the other vision for what we can do, again, you know, if it opens at some point, and it was something that I had as a vision for this Tibetan spiritual master who thought I was a film producer, or he would introduce me as that. I don't know if that was in my future or whatever, but a very highly evolved spiritual master who's now one of the most prominent in the Tibetan world and successful. But it was for him to decamp to Los Angeles. He wanted to make movies and teach there so that he would magnetize people from the film industry. But we might be able to do something like that in the future, do some workshops for people in the film industry to bring more consciousness, wisdom, love to that group of people who are, you know, pretty important in terms of communicating messages to the planet, right? Because in some ways they're among the aristocracy of, you know, of humankind at this point, the movie stars, right? In terms of at least them being listened to and having a voice, right?
Yes. Amazingly powerful people. Yeah, I love that, Michael.
So that, you know,
I'm in, Michael. I'm in.
Okay. So let's put that let's bring that into the vision that we bring into the divine, into the heart of the divine for a moment. Can we?
Yeah, of course. May everyone be blessed.
And may you especially be blessed.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Michael. That means a lot to me. I look forward to seeing you and everyone next week.
Me as well. Much love, and I look forward to seeing you in person.
Me too. That'll be really fun.
Okay. Does Alan has your email or?
Yeah, you can, everything can be found at marlalombard.com. Everything.
Okay, fabulous, fabulous.
Yeah, just contact
I'll send you stuff on the technology.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for doing it.
All right, much love to you.
Thank you, you too, and see you next Wednesday.
Okay, see you next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye. I'm going to disconnect us someday,
All right.
but not now apparently.
Someday
Oh no, I'm going to
soon.
do it right now. Okay, bye.
Bye.